Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we get to sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players and related music industry experts. If you love playing guitar, stick around. You're in the right place. Hey, this is Craig Garber. You know me as host of the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, but when I'm not interviewing world-class guitar players, I'm busy helping clients with their marketing. In fact, since March of 2000, I've helped over 300 clients in 108 different industries all over the world sell everything from $20 books to $5,000 seminar seats and everything in between. I even authored a book about my experience called How to Make Maximum Money with Minimum Customers. Now, if you own or operate a business, ask yourself the following marketing-related questions and be honest with your answers. Are you generating fresh new qualified leads on a daily basis? Is your website generating enough sales? And if not, do you know why? Is your advertising effective? Is it predictably and reliably making you several multiples of what you're spending on it? And lastly, are you consistently communicating with your email list? Or do you have an email list of prospects and customers, but you have no idea what to say to them, how often to say it, or how to make money with this list? If you need solutions for these marketing problems, then you need to book a one-on-one marketing strategy session with me. After this strategy session, you'll know how to speak to and make money with your email list, how to use your website to attract customers and clients who are ready to buy from you now, and how to sell your goods and services for top dollar and at much higher profit margins than your competition. Listen, stop hoping things will get better on their own. Hope is not a very good business strategy. Instead, book a marketing strategy session with me by going to everyonelovesguitar.com/marketing and find out if your business meets the 5 criteria you need to qualify for this service. Again, that's everyonelovesguitar.com/marketing. Thanks for listening. Now let's get on with the show. Hey, everybody, this is Craig Garber from Everyone Loves Guitar, and I am sitting here with, I don't know, perhaps one of the top, I don't know, number. This guy is like one of the greatest guitar players I've ever heard, and it's, I don't say shit like that lightly, and it's a real honor, and I'm real excited to get to know him better. In 1988, he joined epic recording artist Danger Danger for 3 records where they sold over 1 million copies. Multiple tours opening for his own childhood heroes, Kiss and Alice Cooper, as well as 2 top 5 MTV videos. I'm here with Andy Timmons, of course, and since 1982, he's played on and been an integral part of at least 23 full-length CD releases as well as DVD video releases, including albums under his own name and the Andy Timmons Band. In 2000, he became the touring guitarist and musical director for Olivia Newton-John, a position where he stayed for 15 years. In 2017, he launched GuitarExperience.net. That's GuitarExperience.net, a guitar lesson subscription site that also chronicles stories, photos, and videos spanning his entire career. And he recently released Bossa Nova Hits, which is a CD and DVD project produced by the legendary Bossa Nova founding contributor Roberto Menescal. Andy, man, thank you so much. I'm excited to talk with you.
Greg, nice to meet you, man. Thanks for that incredible introduction, and great to be here. Yeah, I'm admiring your 335 with the Bigsby in back of you and a Les Paul. That's the exact Les Paul I had when I was maybe about 16, 17. That was my first great guitar. I was at Tobacco Burst because I wanted a guitar that looked like the Les Paul that Ace was playing early on.
There you go. Yeah, it's a classic. I love it. It feels great. And you know that 335? I got it in Nashville a couple of months ago.
Oh, really?
And I wasn't going to buy it because I saw it on Craigslist. And I saw the Bigsby was added on, and I was like, man, so I had these visions of some dude in his garage with a freaking drill, and I'm like, ugh. But we call the guy up, and it turns out the guy worked at Gibson.
Oh, wow, okay.
So they put it on right there, and everything was done. And then I was hanging out with a guy named John Prestia. I don't know if you know him. He's Tim McGraw's guitar tech. And he's like basically MacGyver for guitars. So he checked it out, and he was like, Craig, if you don't buy this, I will. And I'm like, okay, that's a good enough endorsement from that guy, you know. So everything worked out. And then he did his setup, which it's amazing when you have like a professional, and not that a luthier is not a professional, but like this guy, you know, he set this thing up, and I don't think I could ever change the strings on it again because I have to ship it to Nashville.
Find the right guy that really knows how to set up a guitar.
Oh, God. But anyway, yeah, man, I'd love to hear you play that thing. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, man, one thing I notice about your records, and I've literally listened to your entire catalog in the last 5, 6, 7 days. they're instrumental records, a lot of them, but song composition makes a lot of sense throughout the record. And you don't really see a lot of instrumental albums where, you've got a lot of times there's a lot of instrumental albums. There's a wide range of styles, which is harder to follow, but yours isn't like that. It's very consistent. And I don't think that's random luck. And I think that this is something you gave considerable thought to, because everything fits, and it's a theme. It's one theme, but it's not the same song. And I was wondering if you could talk about your process or your thoughts when you go into this.
I don't know if there's been an overall with each record. Well, maybe with a few exceptions, like obviously the Sgt. Pepper record. There's a concept because it's just covering a Beatle record. But as far as my own compositions go, it's just, I think as a songwriter, we're just writing the song we want to hear. So, you know what I mean? I think we're a product of all the things that we've loved up to that point. Be it my foundation of nonstop 60s pop, Beatles and Kinks and Yardbirds and Dave Clark 5, up through 70s rock. And it was always about just good songs, that. Of course, I love great guitar playing, but there's certain artists out there where I might get bored after a while. I might be the greatest guitar player in the world, but if it's not interesting as a song, then, it's not going to hold my attention. And maybe that's what you're illuminating, that, And I appreciate that. I take that as a great compliment, because first and foremost, I want it to be a good tune. Like the last record the band did was a Theme from a Perfect World. And there's a few songs on there that I think that don't even really have a guitar solo per se. If it didn't need it, there's no reason why I should just kind of wank for a while just because I feel like people expect it or they want it should have a guitar solo. But I consider myself the singer, and when I'm playing an instrumental piece, I'm having to convey, just musically without lyrics what the intended, energy or emotion or whatever it might be for that tune. So whether there's any more thought to it than that, there's really not. It's just what I want to hear, and then hopefully other people will also enjoy that. But from that, it's not like I'm trying to write for any commercial purpose. I've been in situations like that in the past, and it might work out or it might not. But if you're chasing the tail of what you think is going to be commercially successful, I think it's difficult if it's different from what's really in your heart, And so after my time with Danger and some other projects along the way, I just realized I just need to make the music that I really that I want to make, for no other reason but just to try to make something that I can enjoy listening to, and then hopefully other people will dig, So if there's anything, that's the consistent theme,
You mentioned your voice. I want to talk about it a minute. Your voice is really, it's almost like you're a chameleon with your voice, man. It's pretty, sometimes I think I'm listening to like the Beatles, I'm listening to Paul, and then other time, your voice is really pretty broad range. Is that something you've worked on?
Are you talking about my actual singing voice or my guitar?
No, your singing voice.
Some of the earlier vocal stuff I did, I was very much a Lennon, Elvis Costello kind of thing, because in the songs that I was writing, I was just trying to write a good Beatles or a good Elvis tune, who are, I guess Lennon and Elvis would be my favorite songwriters lyrically, for sure. But anyway, I think to a degree too much, but it's kind of like, for me, there's a good analogy that would be similar to the guitar playing, where certainly some of my earlier instrumental stuff you could easily trace to Joe Satriani, because at that time where I decided to start recording guitar instrumental music was right when Surfing with the Alien had come out.
I thought about that because period wise, you can trace it, but it's not. It's dramatically different.
Well, there's no doubt, like songs like Carpe Diem or Busta Soda, or it's just some of the earlier, where there's powerful rhythm guitars. That's why Joe, talking about songs, that's why Joe was so successful and still continues to write great stuff. He just knew how to write a great melody that was infectious, and you wanted to hear it again. Yeah, there was going to be some ridiculously incredible guitar playing, but there was a song, Surfing with the Alien, or Always With Me, Always With You. Just song after song was like, yeah, that's a good melody. It's got a good groove. You love the ZZ Top kind of boogie groove, or whatever it might be. So there was a lot more than just great guitar playing to get people to listen, repeatedly, right? So he was definitely a huge inspiration for not just me, just every guitar player.
Yeah.
We don't need a singer. This is good news.
Yeah.
So that like singing, I think that, like I talked about Lance being very much influenced by Stevie Ray early on, and he's just like him, or if you look at Doyle Bramhall Jr.
Oh my God, what a great,
obviously worked with Stevie a lot. I saw him when he was like 14 or 15, already sounding like exactly like that. So of course they're going to start there, and then they're going to go on and hopefully find their own voice. For me, vocally, I don't know that I've found my own voice, but like my guitar player, I think the older I get, the more comfortable I get with being myself, and that's been the hardest thing just in my life, just being okay with being myself. I never felt confident in that it was enough, right? So that's and I am recording a bunch of vocal material right now, actually, just in my home studio, because I'm always writing, lyrics and stuff. So I just haven't put any vocals on a record in several years, but I think the last one might have been the spoken and the unspoken. So it's been a while. There's going to be coming up, and hopefully I'll continue to find my own sound. But I love writing. So
it's funny, guys that are in our age group, that's the number one thing they say. They're like, man, it's been so refreshing that I like myself now. It's just, or like, I feel so, and I think, like, for me, it was a combination of, I've never really given a shit what other people think, and probably should have cared a little more, frankly. But so I think it's a combination not of caring less, and actually genuinely saying, you know what, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And that is like a liberating. It's a lot less stressful, isn't it?
Yes, very, very much so. I think also it came along with, I started practicing more, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago.
What does that look like when you say practicing more?
Getting up in the morning and having this in my hands.
Well, how long? What does that look like for you?
If I can sit for an hour every morning, of course I do. There's a lot that I do during the day that might also have the guitar in my hands. But getting back into really trying to improve specifically, whereas, I always played, I've always, since I was a young kid, there was never any discipline, but there was always passion. Meaning that, I wanted the guitar in my hands. I wanted to have the record player on and figure out whatever the song was. And then you get in your band, and then you're playing live. And then I eventually, I studied and had a teacher when I was 16 and went to different universities. But once you get out of that scholastic or youth environment, life happens, right? So, you've got way more concerns, and sometimes you can get away from that initial spark of, well, I want to sit down and I want to learn this song or whatever. I'd always be writing or always playing, but the term I use is I don't feel like I was honoring my gift. And I think over the years, I was getting more and more depressed about it without specifically realizing what was happening. And there was an epiphany along the way. And I've said this in some other interviews, where I found out Pat Metheny was going to be doing one of those music camps, right, where you go and you pay a lot of money and you hang out all week with your hero. And I was instantly like inspired and terrified at the same time, because Pat's kind of known for, he's not easily impressed. Let's just say that. And, if that's and he's one of my ultimate, not only just guitarist, but musician heroes, right? Just everything about what he's achieved. So long story short, I was like, man, I am nowhere near where I should be to play in front of this guy, right? So, and specifically in regard to jazz, which he's a known proponent of jazz, right? So, and I played a bit of jazz, and at one point considered myself decent, not great. So I started just every morning playing, working on jazz tunes, right? Just getting back what I used to do when I was, from 16 all the way through my mid-20s. I was playing that kind of music all the time, even though I was still primarily a rock guitarist. That influence and the knowledge of that style informs everything that I do. Everything about my voice leading, my the way I feel swing is extremely influenced by that. And so getting back into that, it was difficult at first because, okay, man, it was hard to hear myself suck, right? The more I stuck with it, it's like, you start to see these little bits of improvement. And before long, I was like, all right, I started noticing that I was getting happier, or at least, like, okay, I'm on a path here. And it was, it's stuff that I would have been telling people throughout my whole life, as far as if people needed advice or they wanted a lesson. I knew what I needed to be doing. I just wasn't doing it.
Interesting.
I'm saying, like, people that want to get in shape, they want to lose weight. They know they can exercise more and eat better or make better decisions. Mm-hmm. It's not easy to do, but once you get into that pattern of that, of whatever it is, practicing more, eating better, and you start to see that little bit of result, you notice you feel better. Aha. So now, I've been able to be consistent with that, and I start to feel like, okay, I'm starting to live up, even though I never will get there, I'm starting to live up more to what my own expectations are of myself.
I'm assuming you're a type A person.
That, I guess you would call it that. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I could be very much the team guy, fulfilling somebody else's goals or whatever, and I like being that guy too. But when it comes to my own stuff, there's no doubt. Yeah.
Well, because when you just seem like, and I'm this way, that you associate progress with happiness, which is a blessing and a curse.
Blessing and a curse.
Yeah,
that's a very good point to make about what I'm saying. But yeah, I think that it's the old adage of if you're not growing, you're dying, right?
I agree. You're preaching to the choir.
So I think perhaps that's the personality that I am, and I have a hard time. I have a hard time relaxing.
Oh yeah, which is again good and bad, man.
It's good. Yeah, it's because we're driven in a certain way that makes us want to advance and continue. And if you look at Jeff Beck, the guy won't make the same record twice, and he could have stopped after Shapes of Things by the Yardbirds and still royalty forever. That's the greatest. But then the Jeff Beck group, and then the Jan Harmer years, and then Emotion and Commotion, which I think is the greatest thing he's ever done. But he keeps getting better. And there's peers of his, without mentioning the obvious names, that they were great back then, and they're kind of still great now. But it's not really that different. It's they got their thing, and they still do it. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm very much more inspired by that guy. Where okay, yeah, you can take this great nugget or this talent. But then, if you don't really nurture that and really, honor that, I mean, it's just it might stay at a certain level, or it might not. It might get better, it might get worse. But man, if you feed it, of course, there's going to be this growth, and I'm starting to see it in myself, and it excites me, even though I still have moments where like, you suck, you got to do. There's always the humbling. Event of hearing the other great musicians, and it's just now I realize I don't have to be them. There would have been a time where I'd hear Holdsworth or Vi or whoever and just go, oh, fuck, man, the feeling of worth dwindles considerably. But, okay, so they're the best at being them, and I just got to be the best at being me. And, so far it's working out okay. But that statement of just wanting to keep growing.
Yeah.
And it definitely, I do equate happiness with that. Whether that's good or bad, like you say, it is
what it is. I don't know. I wish I wasn't like that sometimes, but I was Thanksgiving. All my kids were here. We have 3 kids, and my oldest is 27, and he always comes over and gives my wife the freaking laundry to do. So he's like, Mom. So I saw him doing his own wash, and I said, oh my God, Nick, I'm going to buy lottery tickets. No, but this is what he says. He turns around to me and goes, oh, I'm going to buy a lottery ticket. I said, why is that? He goes, because you're not working today. And I was like,
oh, ouch.
Yeah, but very true. I said, because I made a deliberate thing. I said, okay, I'm not going to work today. I'm going to just 100% be with the family and, chill and spend time with everybody. But it was like, yeah, ouch. I was like, yeah, very, it got me. Good for you.
I drive my family crazy because they just know if forever together on the couch watching a program, there's a good chance the guitar is going to be in my hands, and that's got to be annoying when you're, you know, or whatever the show is. You know. But again, it's like, okay, I'm relaxing, kind of. But
sort of, yeah. I get it, man. I totally get it.
It's tough. But they handle it very well, and yeah, I'm blessed in that way.
As if they have a choice.
Yeah.
No, it is what it is, man. That's it.
Tonight I will put my guitar down. Wait a minute. Oh, Eric Gales is playing tonight. Do you know Eric Gales?
Yeah, I know who he is. Haven't met him.
And he is one of my favorites. And he's playing. I'm very spoiled now. There's a venue real close to my house called the Guitar Sanctuary, which you would love. It's an amazing guitar store, kind of upper end. But they have a 300-seat venue attached to the store, right?
Holy crap, that's smart.
I did there last week with my band. So when I do shows locally, I'm in McKinney, so I'm about 30 minutes north of Dallas. And we played the Granada Theater, which is a nice old venue down in Dallas. But this was like 10 minutes from my house, so I've been tending to play there a bit more. And my best friend owns and runs the place. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Andy, that's Andy. But Eric Gales is playing there tonight, so I'm going to try to go out and see him. But he's got that undefinable magic in his playing. It's so great. I love him a lot. He's besties with Lance too. They know each other for years. They've been through very similar things where they had some issues along the way and made it through it, and they're both very thankful. You know what I mean? So they're doing great.
That's awesome, man. Hey, what are you working on now that you're excited about?
Man, okay, so there's multiple things. The Andy Timmons Band just started a new record last week, so lots of new songs in the pipeline. Got that going on. We just released the Bossa Nova CD and DVD late last year, which is a crazy project that I'm really proud of. And of course, what I'll be doing after I speak to you, I've got the GuitarExperience.net website. So I'm basically going through my back catalog and picking a song every month to teach. So I'll play it on camera for people to see how I play it. And then for each song, there's about an hour's worth of tutorials. It's very accurately transcribed in both PDF and Guitar Pro format. And then I sit and talk about the recording experience, the songwriting inspiration, and basically play it note by note and kind of show how I do it. And then also thoroughly explain the techniques along the way. So it's been great on several levels. One, I think it's a good idea for me to document these tunes and. While I can still do it. And
do you ever have a problem going back and say, shit, how did I play that lick? Because I hear that a lot.
There was, especially the younger I was. So
you got to relearn your own stuff.
One tune called Puppet Show that was kind of my solo feature on the second Danger record. So, I'm in this hair band and we're doing okay, but I'm like, I want to be Satriani and Vi and those guys, So I was wanting to shred a bit, right? So I had this thing that's very arpeggio and, choppy. And it took a minute to get that together, And it was like, when, Danger did a reunion with me involved about, I don't know, 4 years ago, we'll say, I don't remember. But I spent some time trying to figure out what I was doing on some of those tunes. I was pleasantly surprised that, wow, this is, there's some
pretty damn good.
It was okay, So yeah, there are those times, and the good thing about it too is that keeps me practicing some of the old tunes that I don't necessarily play live all the time. So it keeps me on my toes, and then to be able to explain it, to be able to articulate, some of these things that just kind of evolved naturally over my, playing career with the different influences that I've had. But I found, there was this video series I did for a company called Truefire.
They're down here, man.
Yeah, they're exactly. So yeah, I really enjoyed the process. They made it very easy for me to come in and just, explain, be on camera. And I just found I was pretty good at it. I didn't know that about myself, and decided I really enjoyed teaching and finding ways to articulate some of these ideas and experiences that I've had. So. I really thought, this is okay. I'm really seeing the value here. Where when I would teach years ago, maybe just post Danger, I moved back to Texas and I was teaching at a music shop, and I found it very difficult. There's a lot of guys coming in that just kind of seemed to want to hang out. They didn't seem like they were working that hard on.
Hey, can I tell you something? That is 90% of people.
Yeah, no.
That's just the way it works. I mean, I have a book. I've sold marketing programs, and I would say maybe 10% of the people crack the binding.
That really go. And yeah, well, I've bought plenty of self-help outside of guitar knowledge. Like my favorite guy was Tony Robbins. He was, a guy that, late night TV back. It's like in the Danger years.
Direct mail days.
Direct mail days. And he was on late night. I was watching this guy. And this is at the time where the band was kind of at an impasse where it looked like things were falling apart. And, I didn't have any direction in my life at that point. And I kept looking at Tony's ass, and maybe this guy's got something for me. I liked his energy. I liked the way he presented. Clearly, he was a collector he did a best of all the self-help that came before him, and he's very open about that. It's all about presentation, and he inspired me, and it helped change my life. It helped get on my feet, get back to Texas, and so I will credit him for that. And maybe some of that, I can pass on through my teaching, that kind of application of what I learned from him, And so it's definitely, he was a great guy at the right time for me, you know what I mean? So if I can help anybody, and like you say, whether it's, 1%, 10%, whoever many people I'm connecting with. But because of that reason, I've tried to make the website appealing to the casual observer. Because there's been plenty of guitar instructional videos that I've gotten in the past, maybe from Eric Johnson. I just want to listen. I just want to watch the guy play. Whether I ever really worked on any specific idea, is questionable. I might have gotten a thing or two. So the depth is there for the people that really want to go hardcore into it. But also, it's you get to know me a little bit. You get to there's plenty of me playing, which is primarily what people want to see and check out. But also just the thought process and hopefully just speaking about it might be entertaining or hopefully enlightening in some way, whether it's a specific lick or just an overall kind of blanket energy behind whatever the technique or the songwriting or whatever part I'm talking about.
I would imagine the lion's share of your time there is spent in the editing of the video.
I have a partner.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that is not my forte, but I've got a great friend named Nick Knurk, who, back when I got into starting to work on my jazz stuff, he was my jazz buddy. That was the thing when I was in school. If I wasn't in school or gigging, it'd be like, hey man, Craig, what are you doing? Let's go sit and play. We've got an hour. And so Nick became my guy getting back into my school, kind of mode of operation. So he and I started getting together every week and playing and really got close as friends. And so when I had this idea about the website, I said, Nick, man, I'm going to need help. What do you know about video? And he'd been doing a little bit of video at his house. Okay, I'm going to buy we'll get a camera. If you can do this, let's partner up. So, he'll show up later today. We'll get me on cam, we'll get it all lit and get it recording. And then he'll take the video and just cut it up as it needs to be. The thing is that, what the Too Far guys told me, you have a good flow, right? If you get the camera on, I can sit down. There's not a lot of editing to do. It's just, I'm going to get the ideas across. You maybe just have to cut different sections and put a label on it. But that would be the part that would take me forever and it would never get done. Let's just say that. So it's important to me to also know that, okay, I need to delegate. I need to partner up. And it's been working. It's been working like that. So it's just the two of us. And I do have a web guy that helps keep it looking professional and helps get it out there in the way that it needs to be. So.
And that's guitarexperience.net.
Yeah,
everybody wants to check it out. Check it out, everybody. Guitarexperience.net. Yeah, editing is always in it. Like I write ad copy, and I have no problem writing. I could write all day long. I've been just doing it a long time. But you throw it all out. But then the editing, that's where the work comes in.
Exactly. That's why for me, I really appreciate when I can do an interview and it's either face to face or on the phone. But in this day and age, I get asked a lot too. Here, we'll send you the questions. Send us back the answers.
I hate that.
It becomes very.
It's work.
But I get it because they're going to have to if it's a print or online interview, they're going to have to transcribe what I say, and I choose what I say very carefully. I don't want to be paraphrased. And there's been those kind of journalists along the way too that went, oh, I know what you mean. And if I read it, there were years where I would actually still read these things, and it's like that's not what I said. And then a simple little word change obviously can very much make you sound like a different person.
Oh, dramatically.
So that's why the podcasts are great, or the physical interviews, but the homework is homework. But I'll still do it that way occasionally. But yeah, this is much prefer the medium.
Yeah, cool.
And you don't have to edit it either. I mean, if you want to edit out a babbly section, great, but you don't have to.
No, we edit nothing here. This is ghetto editing here, man. This is uncut.
It's important though, because then they really get to know you, and they get to know each person that you're hanging out with, and I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, that's what the only time I usually edit is sometimes people get so comfortable here. They start, they'll be like, I work with that motherfucker, and then I'm like, yeah, do you remember when you said this and oh yeah, let's take that out.
I'm generally careful about that. Sometimes I'll get on a subject, but yeah, there's no need for that stuff.
Yeah. So let's talk about, for each one of these situations, how the gig came about, and if you can maybe talk about a cool or funny story or discussion of the experience, and anything you might have learned from your experience in these situations. And let's talk first about Danger, obviously. Yeah.
Okay. So let's see here. This would have been about 1988. I had just formed the Andy Timmons Band in early 1988, and we formed in Denton, Texas. Just some. There was an electric violinist who became my recording engineer for years, named Robert Wexler, and he used to have these jam sessions at his house, and that's how I met Mitch Marine on drums and Mike Dane on bass. So we started.
Oh, holy shit! Mitch Marine was the drummer in Danger.
No, he was the drummer in the Andy Timmons Band.
And that's what I thought. Yeah, because that guy, holy crap, man! I listened to Resolution like twice yesterday, and then I looked up who the drummer was. I was like, oh my god, who is this dude? That guy's
he's
holy
incredible.
Shit.
He's with Dwight Yoakam now. He's been with Dwight Yoakam now for about 10 years or so. No, he's really a one of a kind player. Right?
Whoa.
Yeah, he's also the guy on the Sgt. Pepper record too. There's nobody that could really do Ringo justice, but yet have a bit more of a modern reading, right? But he just has the feel. So anyway, we were gigging as the Andy Timmons Band and getting pretty known fairly quickly in the Dallas and Denton area. Because the guitar instrumental thing was exploding with you had Vi and Satriani and even Yngwie and guys like that. The shreddy, Guitar Hero thing was really at its peak. So I kind of fit the bill on the Dallas market for that. So people were coming to see me, and so the first thing that actually came down my pipeline was a band was forming called Bad English. Now that at the time was John Waite and Jonathan Cain and Ricky Phillips. A guy, Neil Sean had done the demos, but had gotten a solo deal with Columbia, so didn't commit to the band. So that band began looking for a guitar player, and Ricky Phillips was a Spectre bass endorser, which was Kramer Guitars. So he asked his guy at Kramer, a guy named Buddy Blaze, hey, anybody? We need a bluesy guy, but a rock guy, and Buddy. He designed the Night Swan for Vivian Campbell and Dimebag Darrell's early guitars with the sky and the Kiss pictures on his old whatever that was, BC Rich or something. Anyway, Buddy Blaze thought, well, man, Dallas is the place. He was from Dallas. We could find a guy like that in Dallas. So he called a guy named David Huff, who had a magazine called Jam Magazine, and David, sought out who's the happening guy, and my name came up. So I sent my demo tape that I just recorded with the Andy Timmons Band into Buddy Blaze. They sent it on to Jonathan Cain, and next thing you know, I got a message on my answering machine from Jonathan Cain saying, "Hey man, we love your playing, heard your tape, want to fly out to audition for the band." So next thing you know, I'm flying out to San Francisco to be in a room with John Waite and Jonathan Cain, and I'm freaking out because I love John Waite from the Babies.
Why do I know that name, Jonathan Cain, though?
The Journey.
Yeah. Okay.
So he was in the last version of the Babies with Ricky Phillips, and then left to join Journey once Greg Raleigh left.
Okay.
Oh yeah, wrote a few hit songs. The commercial era of Journey is Jonathan Cain and obviously Steve Perry and Neil Sean. So I auditioned, and they were listening to a lot of great players, man. Steph Burns and Steve Ferris and Mr. But they said, man, you got the gig. We love your playing. We're going to fly out. We'll spend a week with you now in L.A. It's kind of like a trial run. And that week, Neil Sean called them and said, hey, I'm kind of rethinking the band. So they go, well, okay, look, Andy, this has gone great, but we're going to spend a week with Neil now, and we'll let you know. Oh, yeah, I know. What are my odds? Now they've got half of Journey, or known kid from Texas. So that obviously fell by the wayside. But then right after that, the Buddy Blaze, the same guy at Kramer, said, oh, don't worry about those guys. I've got this other band, Danger Danger. They're looking for a guitar player. They're signed to Epic. They've already done their first record. But they need a guy to join the band, start touring, do the videos. And I heard the tape, and I was like, oh, yeah, maybe, At the very same time, I had a friend that was playing tenor in Tower of Power, right? You familiar with those guys?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the horn section.
So Steve Grove, I'd gone to school with this guy in Miami. He says, hey, we're coming through Miami. Can you come sit in? I'm like, okay. So I learned a couple songs because they were looking for a guitar player also. So I go sit in with Tower Power, and it goes down great. So I had this, and so they're offering me the gig. You want to come out to where I think they made it from Oakland. And I was like, either go down the Tower Power path or Danger Danger. And I was looking at Danger Danger, going, well,
hold on. What about Andy Timmons band? That was not.
That's still happening, but
you could manage that and have this other gig.
Well, that's just it. I thought, well,
okay.
Now, of course, that's what I want to do, but at that point, I think I'd already sent some material to Interscope Records, which had the Satriani and Vi stuff. Like, yeah, it's okay, but we've already got Steve and Joe, and not being the most confident cat on the block, I just thought, man, I have an opportunity to do one of these gigs. And there's the lure of it was on a major label, and that is kind of like that holy grail, especially back then. Maybe not so much now, but back then that was kind of like your goals.
Yeah.
A label, because that would, at that time in my young mind, that would have been the arrival. That would have been the success.
Sure.
This is what I want, as far as what I thought. So went down the path of Danger Danger, and it worked out the way it worked out.
What made you go Danger Danger over Tower Power? What was the trigger?
It was, and we'll talk more about this when you look at when you make decisions based on what you think might be the best money or the career, the commerciality. Let's say that it just seemed like there was more potential there. I don't know, where Tower Power was heading or whatever, but they had their run in the 70s and stuff, and were still very, very respected in the musician world, which is really what I think I really desired more than anything. But that other part of my brain thought, okay, this might be the thing. There was that lure of the major label, the potential for
this might be your KFC.
Exactly. Whatever that.
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
I couldn't quite piece the analogy together. Or in Kennedy Fried Chicken.
That's right.
Street Northerns, like the exact logo, but Kennedy Fried Chicken. How they got away with that, I'll never know.
Hey, my wife is from a small town in England, and they take me to this other small town. I don't know what it was like. She's from Dunstable. It was like Dunstable Fried Chicken. Same exact thing. So they have this all over. There's
little liberties taken. So, but it's that fork in the road, and you make these decisions. But I mean, and so in the long run, that was my music business education. Good, bad, and ugly, and a lot of bad and a lot of ugly, but a lot of positive. I mean, again, when you talk about getting the major label experience and touring for, like you said, the Childhood Heroes, getting a tour opening for Kiss was incredible, because that was the first concert I ever saw was Kiss on the Destroyer tour, 1976, and I last kid in the very back of the arena going, this is what I want to do, So it's kind of to be there in that way, really was an amazing experience, just one of those childhood dreams. But the further along, I kind of was seeing the music business for what it was. It was a business, and it was a lot of the things I saw going on at the record label it was so far removed from the actual artist and the human and the music. It was just it was a commodity and a business, and it really struck me that this isn't why I do what I love to do. This is a whole other thing, and we have to be concerned about business. We have to be concerned about making money. But it was clear that I was not in the right place. And then when we did the third record for Epic, which eventually was called Cockroach, it was at a time where the singer was having issues with Steve Bruno, who had formed the band and controlled the business into things. And the landscape was changing. You know, you had Seattle and rap were taking over MTV. So they never released the record. And then they made it impossible for us to get the rights back or the master tapes by asking an astronomical amount of money for it.
To buy back your own stuff.
The stuff that essentially your work, right? Yeah. It's not your work. So I thought, why would I ever? And we were really proud of it for the time and for that band. It really was a step in a direction that we were all very excited about. And even our A&R guy was jumping up and down, loving it. But it just wasn't meant to be. It was just a little too late. And so I thought, why in the world would I ever put my heart and soul in anything that doesn't belong to me? That was the moment of, okay, this is not why I do what I do. And that's when I came back to Texas. And basically, throughout Danger, I was still with the Andy Timmons Band. Whenever I wasn't on the road, any chance I had, I would come back to Texas and record or play a gig. So the whole I think end thought was like, I'll do this for a while, but then I can come back and really do my own thing. And that just gave me even more inspiration and impetus. Of course, now having the benefit of having been on the world stage, and even though it wasn't playing the music that I would have liked to have been associated with going forward, it was still that introduction. Okay, this guy can play, and this, so there was a fan base there to start with, and so it wasn't a bad position to be in. But when I came back to Texas, it was like we'd already finished most of what became my first record, Ear Ecstasy. I'd actually given a tape of what I thought were really just the demos or the rough mixes. I gave a tape to Reb Beach, who I'd become friends with from Winger. And we were just good buddies, and I'd given him this tape. I said, yeah, well, I'm thinking about, we need to, go in and redo all this. He says, what do you, this is your record. This is done. This is it. I'm like, and it kind of made me realize that, because I didn't think I was making the final record, it had a very fresh energy to it. A lot of the tracks I thought were scratch tracks ended up being what I kept for the record. And so that's what happened. I've recorded a couple extra songs and ended up putting that out. I didn't send it to one label. Yeah,
I was going to ask you, were you like so disgusted at that point? Yeah, that's what I figured.
It was like, why do I? I'm going to make the music I want to make, pay for it myself, own it, and just put it out. And so, because I had some success in Japan with Danger and a very close relationship with the label personnel there, they saw I had this ad that appeared in American Guitar Magazine for a piece of gear I was endorsing called the Hughes and Kettner Tube Man. It was a little guitar preamp that you could go direct with, and I was using it on jingles all the time and recording sessions. And they asked if I would do an ad for the piece of gear. I said, sure. If you put an ad for my record, mail order, in this, because I'd seen other people do that. Oh, you buy Tony McAlpine CD here, send in your money to P.O. Box, Texas, right? So,
and this was in 80. What was this? Early 90s by then. So right before the internet.
94, yeah,
right simultaneously almost.
Just before I had a computer.
Yeah.
So they agreed, and my friend in Japan that had a label said, "Why didn't you send this to me? Like we can license this. You still own it, but we'll just put it out." And okay, so that kind of led me down that path of okay, I'll own it, but then the labels can license it. So that led to a deal in Japan, eventually in Europe.
And by licensing, they pay you X amount per disc sold. Yeah,
you give them the rights to press them and sell them, but it still belongs to you.
Sure,
this is a good way to do it. So it wasn't until Steve Vai came along with Favored Nations in 2001, I believe. He started this record label called Favored Nations, and at that point, I still hadn't entertained the idea of working with a label on the domestic front. But he came along. He was the first guy to really come along with, a very reasonable deal, 50-50 with the label and artist. Once you pay expenses, we're splitting this evenly. So then I agreed
in exchange for distribution.
For distribution, exactly. So he was the first guy domestically that came along with that business model, and so then I started working with him on the next couple of records, and that was great because to have the credibility of Steve Vai thinking you're all right. I was one of the first guys he asked to be on that label. So getting to know him better, we'd known each other since '93. Or even earlier, but through Ibanez, we're both Ibanez endorsers. So, there were certain, events along the way. We got to know each other and we're friendly. And so I had gone to, when G3 would come through Dallas, they would always invite me to come to the show. And they were playing in Fort Worth. It was when John Petrucci was with Satch and Joe and Steve. And so there was that night that Steve asked me, hey, I've got this label. I think you'd be perfect. Oh, great. Okay. And so that became a great relationship and still is to this day, even though we're not working together now. We're still great friends. And he's a very sharp guy as far as you talk about the representatives that know about business and marketing. He's a guy that's been very savvy. I feel has been very savvy with that. Both sides of his brain are plugged in quite well. And so I've learned, he's like a big brother. I've learned a lot from him.
That's really cool. So, and it also gave you good validation musically.
I think so. I think that, because he's obviously way more famous and revered than myself, to have his stamp of approval, I think, I think helped a lot, and it's clear that he wasn't just picking guys that were maybe,
you could fog a mirror.
Yeah, he really, from Mimi Fox to the Larry Carlton and Steve Lukather record, he just was appreciating, good playing and good art. And again, I'm really thankful for him giving me that opportunity at that time. It was really good. It was good timing.
So you learned a hell of a lot ultimately through your experience with Danger, good, bad, and otherwise.
No doubt. It was really my music business 101. It helped me. It further helped me to find, myself.
Yeah.
In that situation, I can look back at videos now and go, who was that guy? I was very much, wanting to please the band and wanting to fit the role of whatever that was, that hair band kind of rock and roll guy back then, where it wasn't necessarily what came naturally. And I'm moving into, a kid that grew up in a small town in Indiana into a band of, street savvy New Yorkers, so this is I'm skin of my teeth, just learning, you know what I mean? It's a different environment. And it was great, but I love the guys dearly. They're you spend that kind of intense time with people, and you get to know your road family can be closer than your actual family sometimes, because you're just spending so much time together. And of course, that's what creates issues. If there's really huge personality issues, that's going to become magnified. But in general, man, we all we love each other, and just went through some incredibly funny times and some heavy times too. But the overall the takeaway was like, it really helped me understand. Okay, major label fame, that even though we weren't like household names, you're on MTV consistently, and there's a level of notoriety there. So okay, this isn't really what I wanted. You might think that's the goal, but it clearly was not. What I'm doing now with just practicing and getting better and recording the music that I want to make. Okay, now I see that's when people are really going to appreciate the real you anyway. If you're really doing what's in your heart, I think that's going to connect eventually, whether it's commercially a viable thing at that moment or not. I think it will stand the test of time. I think if it's done with that being the motivation, you have a lot better chance of really attracting, a core faithful audience that will be there,
But I think it's like that with everything, as far as like, relationships, for example. You think you want this, and then you get that, you're like, oh, not really. Right.
Well, yeah, but until you're there, it's hard to really know.
Simon Phillips, talk about good drum. You've always had. So what's the deal with you and drummers? It's interesting. Beck, I interviewed two of Beck's guitar players. I interviewed Carmen Vandenberg and Jennifer Batten.
Yeah.
And both of them, especially Carmen, was Jeff. Jeff said to her, "If you have a great drummer, you've got everything."
There's no substitute. You're only as strong as your drummer. And every great record that I've ever been in love with, I can trace it like that drummer just feels on. Ringo is just one of the greatest guys to ever pick up a pair of sticks, because things just feel phenomenal. Now, of course, nobody thinks he's got great chops, etc. That's also not the case. But the thing is, those records feel great. And of course, it's Paul and Ringo playing together, and what's on top is amazing. But if that foundation's not there, you're sunk. And I'm very hard on drummers. I'll admit it. And very picky. I've been very fortunate that the drummers I've had in my band, of course, working with Simon, I'm very spoiled.
Yeah.
Simon, that's it's still we're still close. I'm not playing in his band currently, but we've done quite a bit together since, gosh, the first time we played together was '93, and then we started working consistently together in '97.
How did you guys meet?
We met through Ibanez and Tama. Tama is his drum company that he works with, and Ibanez is the guitar company, and so that's the same parent company of Hoshino.
Okay.
And so we're putting together a NAMM show concert that was going to feature all the Ibanez guitar heroes. It was going to have Vi Satriani, Paul Gilbert, Reb Beats, Alex Skolnick, and Sean Lane, and myself. But what my role initially was they needed kind of a house band, a backing band for all these guys. And so they thought, okay, Simon, we've got you, we've got Gerald Beasley, who was playing bass. And my friend Bill Comiskey thought I'd be the perfect guy, because he knew that I was only known for Danger Danger at that time, but he knew my solo material, and he knew my broad range of skills. So Andy would be the perfect guy. So Simon's deal was like, okay, I'll back these guys up if I can play some of my own material in between, right?
He was doing what you did with the ad.
Well, exactly. So how can I further get mileage out of it?
Get my shit out there, no problem.
Well, that was the beauty, because I was learning all the other tunes to help the other guys if they needed backing guitar. But then I had these Simon Phillips tunes to learn, and his solo material tends to be more complex kind of fusion stuff, which if you were to look at any other band in the hair band scene, may not be their forte.
May not, yeah.
So he sent me charts and these recordings, and it was challenging, to the point where I even had charts on stage at the gig. There was a lot of memorization, and it was a lot of material. With that, he also saw how I treated all the other material. Like Satriani couldn't rehearse the band, so he doesn't need a rhythm guitar at that time. So I learned all his shit to be able to play with whatever the song was. And
wow.
So he saw the work ethic.
Yes, you know what, man? I don't care anything. If you don't have the work ethic in whatever you're doing, it doesn't matter how fucking talented you are, man. That is the driver of everything.
And we could talk way more about that when it comes to the Olivia gig, and what led to 15 years of the biggest part of my income is that exact same ethos. But we'll get to that in a second. But more on Simon, so we had this one gig. It went phenomenal. The night was great. It was great for everybody. Everybody played great. But I got this exposure in this whole other realm, and so it was a big night for me. As a guy wanting to establish himself as not just the Danger guy, right? So then about 4 years later, he was about to do a tour in Europe, and his guitar player that he'd worked with for years in the English session scene, Ray Russell, couldn't do the tour. They'd done a record. He says, "Oh yeah, Andy. I'll call Andy." So he just remembered that one gig, and okay.
How cool is that?
To a couple more at that time, a couple records and a bunch of tours, and then years later we had the Protocol 2 and Protocol 3 records. So, it's big shoes to step into. Here's a guy that's played with Townsend extensively. Lukather, my biggest influence and hero. Every great guitar player, Jeff Beck, all these great guys. So I didn't take the position lightly, and it was a bit intimidating, but he loves the way I play, and that means a lot to me. So even though we're not working together right now, we'll definitely do some stuff in the future.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's tremendously inspiring. And another guy where I've learned a lot from, where he just has so much experience recording. So every time we do stuff in the studio, I love the way he works. He's a great engineer. He's a great producer. He's very, very, very talented organizationally, right? Very, very attentive to every detail, and knows how to get results, in an easy way.
That's great. It sounds like this was a really great opportunity. It was a great opportunity for you, and you rose up 100% to meet the challenge to take advantage of that opportunity, which was awesome.
That was something that I said once. I was in the middle of the Danger years there, and I was still became an endorser for Kramer Guitar, since they were the conduit of introduction there. And I was doing a guitar clinic with a rep locally in Texas or something, and he said, "Well, how'd you get the gig in Danger?" And I said, "Oh man, I guess I just got lucky." self-effacing. You know, he says, no, you didn't. You worked your ass off for years, and when you got the opportunity, you were ready. And that changed my answer from then on, because he was right. And it was the same with Simon Phillips' gig. Had I not had the years of, you know, working on the more advanced harmony or rhythms, there's no way I could have pulled that off. You know, I was ready for the challenge and then worked even harder in preparation for that. The same goes for the Olivia Newton-John gig, where it was actually through Simon that I got the opportunity, because Olivia was managed by Fitzgerald Hartley, which was the longtime Toto management. Of course, Simon was in Toto at the time.
Oh.
Olivia was coming over to do some shows and hadn't toured in forever, and it was an Australian-based band that backed up a guy named John Farnham, who's like the Springsteen of Australia. And one of the guitar players couldn't do the gig, and so management just kind of blindly put feelers out. Hey, if anybody knows a guitar player that can do this gig, let me know. So Simon just called me. He said, hey, you fancy doing a gig with Olivia Newton-John? I'm like, I guess. I love Olivia. She's awesome. And so, you know, the music director at the time, you know, like the week before the first rehearsal, sent me a board tape, meaning a poorly recorded live gig that they'd done on New Year's Eve the year before. And
you mean you couldn't go on Pirate Bay and get a better one?
I'd already bought all the, like, okay. I didn't even have the specific set list. I thought, okay, they got to be doing these songs. I love these songs. I'd already heard them enough to know them well. But I just went and just listened and learned the parts, a lot of which were extremely challenging. There's some really great guitar playing and parts on those songs. So even without any help, I had already prepared my ass off. And I went in, and first day of rehearsal, there was nothing to say. It's like we just played the shit down, like, okay, next.
Yeah.
And, you know, once she got there, she was very happy, and management saw this. They thought, oh, okay. As she enjoyed that tour, they thought, well, maybe we should put this guy in charge, since he knows his shit so well, and just form a U.S.-based group. That way we don't have to bring the Australian guys over every time. So they put me in charge, and through management and myself, we chose a band. And again, but I would treat any gig like that. I would treat anything that I do with that respect. So why would I go do a gig down at the corner pub with some friends, and we're supposed to know these songs? Why wouldn't I learn the shit out of the songs to make the experience as good as we can, right? I realize now that that's not necessarily the common way that some people approach things. But I talk about it now because if it's not the way you think, maybe it should be, if this is what you want to do, because the people playing with you deserve that respect. The music deserves that respect, and you never know who's going to be there. You know,
well, plus you need to take pride of ownership to do.
I just selfishly, I want to, for myself, I don't want to sound like shit. I don't want
to. Yeah, you want them to say, wow, that fucking guy. And that's what they did.
I do well. And so, but just having that mode of operation, or just that pressure to want to do well, that's going to serve you well no matter what you do. And it's certainly been, you know, as far as this wacky thing that I do, playing guitar, trying to make a living, it's enabled me to do a wide variety of stuff to keep busy and somehow make a living doing it. You know, there might have been better ways of setting goals, or, you know, or making a specific plan. And it's just kind of happened the way it's happened. But, you know, I'm thankful, man. I'm thankful that I've always been able to keep it going. And especially now that the internet's been amazing, because it puts you in front of people that, you know, pre-internet wouldn't have been able to find you without the push from a major label or whatever. So the guys like me that just want to create the music that they love can be found by people that appreciate it one way or the other. You know, either from association with other artists that they might be into, like when I've played on stage with, say, Trion or different guys, or you know, people might see it post. Of course, everything you do is online, right? They're going to post a video, and it kind of helps if you're sounding good, hopefully in that moment, you know. I remember at the onset of people posting on YouTube and stuff, it was terrifying, because you just thought, oh man, I have no control over this, and what if I suck, you know? But at a certain point, you just have to realize that you just got to do the best you can do, and you can't control it. I think some people try to police that, but I also realize that
good luck with that.
It's just how a lot of people got to know me through that medium, you know, and so I'm very, very thankful for it.
Well, it sounds like, man, that the Ibanez Tama thing that came along. Really, it was a great, like, you needed that thing to come along. So it's nice that came along, and then you worked your ass off to make. You needed to get thrown a bone because after Danger, sort of, because
Well, it was really at that pivotal time where I was still in Danger, but the end was in sight, even though I didn't specifically recognize it. But and so it was right at the time where I'd been recording all the Your Ecstasy material. So I was very excited and anxious to get that part of my playing known. So that was a good introductory, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And then getting my solo record out the next year, and it's just kind of started rolling from there in the direction that I was more happy with, I think.
I want to talk about your experience at Andy Timmons Band, but where do you think the work ethic for you, where did that work ethic come from, or how did it start, if there's even an answer?
I think from my mother. She raised 4 kids kind of on her own since my parents split pretty early. She just was very much blinders on, get things done. Whatever had to happen, and she, instilled in me the notion, and it had to be difficult for her being a single mom, raising a kid with Kiss pictures on every wall and music, and older kids coming to pick me up in their car to go to band practice when I was 13. There was a leap of faith there, but she was like, she saw the passion that I had. She says, whatever it is you want to do in your life, just go for it 1,000%. So I don't know that. Some of it may be genetic. It may be what I witnessed her do, and even see my brothers do as well, because they all got jobs when they were young, and so I did the same thing. I got my first job when I was 13. That's how I paid for all my records and early guitars, and so I think there was a blessing there because I really valued everything that I had. It wasn't handed to me musically either. We didn't have. Everybody's showing you every little bit. You had to put the needle on the record, and it's going out. Even obviously in all my video lessons, I encourage that. Don't watch me first. Listen to me first, and see what you can get on your own, because that in the end is the most powerful tool. We're having to analyze constantly what's going on orally, with the music, to know what to play, what not to play, how to fit in. And it's not just about you learning a part and then blurting it out. This all has to fit, and this you have to make. You're constantly making decisions in the moment, and the more you develop that tool of the listening and recognizing, not knowing that I had the best possible scenario when I did, by not having a teacher or having the visual aids or knowing how to read. I developed the ear. I can recognize now what that chord is or what that note is, and so. That was part of the work ethic too. I had to earn it. Monetarily, I had to earn what I was listening to and what guitars I was playing, and also had to earn the music.
Yeah. Let's talk, and we can take a break after this. Let's talk about Andy Timmons Band. Obviously, not how you got the gig, but what's been some of the more valuable lessons you've learned out of putting the Andy Timmons Band together and your experience with that over the years?
There's one part that happened naturally, and then I had to come full circle on. If you have great players with you, and if you're fortunate to have great players that you can develop a chemistry with, as a writer and producer, you're always better off letting them do what they do, right? And that's all we ever did when we first started playing. I never thought about having to tell the drummer what to do. I had Mitch fucking Marine. I didn't know I had one of the world's greatest drummers in my band. I just thought that's how you do it, and I was just spoiled, Very, very much so. So his instincts were kind of exactly what I wanted to hear, and Mike Dane as well. This incredibly intuitive rhythm section that just knew how to support what I was doing, and musically we came from such similar backgrounds. We love the same rock and roll. We love the same jazz. We'd studied enough to have a bit of education about things, but not too much to get in the way of the core rock and roll thing. You can overthink things. You can over theorize and all that. So it was a very happy accident of the right guys at the right time. And so that's one thing that I learned later on. If I was really hearing a specific thing, and they're very open to that too. But as I've produced sessions for other musicians or artists, and I've certainly done a lot of recording sessions for other people, to know that they're going to get the best out of me if they let me do instinctually what I do best. I can do, maybe quickly or not so quickly what a specific vision might be, but they're going to get something much more organic and much more special if you just let that great player do what they do, right? And so that's, if you're asking that could be one small thing,
No, that's really good.
That's a good overall kind of takeaway. It's like, okay, this is one thing I've learned, But I realize that not everybody's blessed with having these great players kind of fall in their lap,
Are those guys both from Texas?
Well, no, they're both from Michigan. No, actually, Mike Day's from Michigan and Mitch grew up in Illinois. But Denton, Texas was definitely a hub for players because of the North Texas University Jazz Department.
Are they still are they in Texas now, or those guys? Or
Mitch is in L.A. because, like I say, he's been working with Dwight Yoakam.
Okay, right.
I think at least 10 years. Mike is still in Dallas. And he and I are closer than ever. He's been now producing the last couple of records with me and engineering at his home studio. So he's really turned into this amazing part of the group in the sonic way as well as the musical way. So that's been great to kind of see him develop in that way and our relationship develop in that way. Because generally in the early years it was we'd play the music, come up with the arrangements, record it, but then it was really kind of the ball was in my court. I would finish the songs. I would, with Robert Wexler at the helm of engineering and mixing, it was kind of my, it was my thing, right? But over the years, it's been the door has been way more open for Mike to have more input, and it just makes everybody happier. I might have different opinions at time But a lot of times I go, man, let me just go down Mike's path for a minute. Oh, I like this too. Okay, great. I've become much more open to flexibility, whereas I would have had a more specific vision sometimes after the initial creative spark of just putting the songs together. So
did you have a hard time letting go in the beginning?
A little bit. I don't know if that's ego or what that is. But I just know that I've really enjoyed that loosening up and Mike and I becoming closer in that way. It's really because and Mitch too. He's just, but now obviously Mitch isn't full time with the band. Rob Afsharian and another guy from Ann Arbor, Detroit area, has been our touring guy and recording guy. So sometimes Mitch comes in and do a few songs every now and then. So, but Rob's amazing as well. Another guy incredible rock drummer. Check out his band Bob Goblin. They had a deal with MCA in the '90s. But they did a record 2 years ago, whatever their most recent Bob Goblin record is. Check that out. It's as good as, I call it smart guy pop. It's phenomenal. Anyway, so great rock drummer, but is one of the best straight ahead jazz drummers I've ever played with. So again, that ability to straddle such a wide variety of feels and sounds and just dynamics. The guys that have played a lot of jazz, will tend to have a broader concept of dynamic. And with my music, that's one of the most important things. It's just not hit you over the head all the time. There's got to be peaks and valleys and a dynamic within every line, really. So very blessed in that way.
Awesome. All right, so Andy, you seem like a really mellow guy, and you are a mellow guy. In fact, you're like, I would almost say Zen-like in your mellowness,
Well, you're seeing this side of me.
Yes, I haven't seen you. I can talk to your wife and get the real scoop. Yeah, don't we all have it,
Exactly.
But in your playing, there's like a raging fire in there that's powerful, very emotional, and quite moving. Like, I mentioned to you, I went through your entire catalog before this interview, literally your entire catalog. And there wasn't one album, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, there wasn't one album where at some point in time when you were soloing, I didn't get goosebumps. Okay.
Wow.
So my question is, there's a few guys that do that on a regular basis. Like Gary Moore did it on a regular basis.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
God, I love Gary.
But there's that fire when you watched Gary and when you listened to him and when you heard people talking to him, you could see that, there was something going on in there. And I'm not asking you to share your demons, but where does that fire come from? Because when you start ripping and you're in a zone, no, it's like, the fucking guns are out and you're not leaving anybody alive.
Yeah. It's hard for me to speak directly about it. I can only take a couple guesses here, but I think that I've always been a very sensitive type person, meaning everything affects me deeply, be it positive or negative. Mm-hmm. So I think that by allowing myself to live like that and to feel like that, it's not the easiest way to live, but it allows me to tap in to all of that, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I think that Steve Vai paid me one of the biggest compliments, and, basically just saying that, I play the way I am as a person, and I guess any great artist or musician, that's their aspiration. They just want to, be able to really reflect and draw deeply on their life experience and whatever meanings they've attached to all that and how they interpret that and how they feel that. Right. So yeah, it's, I would assume that it's got to be based somewhat on that, even though I as much as possible try to present myself, just in a kind way, because that's the way I want to be treated. Why shouldn't I be treating other people like that? That's just kind of a life. You just kind of wish everybody would be like that,
yeah,
right?
For sure.
Of course, that's not the case. A majority of the musicians I run into, they have that empathy. They have that simpatico where, man, we're all in this together. Not all of them. And you hear stories about the ones that aren't so amiable and have that thought process. But so I appreciate the compliment, because I do take that as a compliment.
It is, yeah.
If fire is what I want to draw upon, that it's there, man. It's there as much as any human would ever need. But I also want the more generous, delicate thing too, and that to me is what makes music interesting. If something's all fire or something's all puppies and kittens, I mean, at some point you're going to lose interest, right?
Yeah, totally.
But it's the players like Stevie Ray had it too. Hendrix had it, where there's a dynamic, man. There's, with both Hendrix and Stevie Ray, man, when it's fire time, look out. They're going to bowl you over. Their sense of rhythm and time and energy and passion. But, man, listen to that intro, Little Wing, or listen to Riviera Paradise or whatever, and there's this wonderful dynamic in their life. And just when so many great artists, I'm just as interested to hear them speak as I am their art.
Yeah, for sure.
Hendrix spoke the way he played. Hearing Elvis Costello speak, he's such an articulate guy. It's the way he writes. He's speaking exactly like he writes, and it's just riveting to me. Or when you hear Lennon, in his interviews, where, and he had a beautiful, sensitive side, but a deep, deep anger, man. So and these are my influences. So maybe in some way I'm reflective of the guys that I drew on. Steve Lukather, another guy, man. He'll bowl you over, but then play some of the most beautiful, melodic, simple stuff. And I've told him that over and over, man. He's had that accident where he was in some kind of bus accident, so it's messed up his left hand a little bit. I think it's his left hand. But so he feels like he doesn't quite have the chops he once did. I said, Steve, I'll be honest with you, that's cool, but you got me with the one note.
Yeah.
You got me with I won't hold you back now. That beautiful solo he plays with the London Philharmonic. That's the shit I want to hear. So anyway, so maybe it's somewhat the people that I was influenced by recognizing what it was about those players, or just internalizing it that way and then expressing it just because of my own life experience. Again, the way I present myself is one way, and hopefully it's in a positive way, because there's enough negative shit out there, but I've got plenty of that inside me. And it does come out. It comes out in my playing. It comes out with people close to me, sometimes at the wrong time. I've had, the past 10 years, there's a couple of dust-ups with really close friends that after it happens, it was like, oh, wow, we don't speak for a while or something. It's like, well, okay, you saw the side of me that I was being real honest.
Right.
I'd be used to it, but it was honest and it was heartfelt. So it's a balance, man. It's a balance, and I'm still figuring it out. But the music is always, I will say this: music has been the consistent outlet. I was a very shy person, so direct communication is still difficult sometimes if I have conflict.
Wow, that is really, let me tell you, man, you've come a really long way based on, the off-camera, off-air, 30, 45 minutes conversation we've had, because you communicate
well, thank you.
very well.
I mean, it's always been in there, but there was kind of an insecure, shy person that grew up, a certain way, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that I've definitely come out of a shell in a lot of ways, as far as my, behavior around people I don't know, maybe, or, but the one consistent outlet of emotion for me was always music, whether it was the solace of just listening to it, but the ability to, when I started to be able to play in my early teens, man, I certainly found that outlet,
So in a way, you found. So in a way, your guitar spoke for you, in a sense.
No doubt about it. And maybe some of that energy and your hearing might be, well, I got time to let it out now. I might not have said it to this person when I should have, but here it is. That's not my conscious thought. But
right.
About it, that makes total sense. Like, fuck, man, I've got some pin-up shit. Maybe because on a daily basis, I'm not letting folks have it like I maybe would like to. Or whatever the energy might be, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm walking around angry all the time with a smile on my face. It's not that, but yeah, but conflict's a big thing for me, and that's always been the most difficult thing for me to handle. Some people are great about being direct and say, hey, you know what, that's not right, and I don't, that hasn't been my forte. So I'm still learning on that and getting better about it. But maybe that's where some of it comes from, that frustration and pent up release for what, isn't happening as much as it should. Therapy.
Yeah, man. No, I'm a big proponent. It's funny. I'm the other way.
Yeah. Oh, really?
I had a terrible problem with I was like a bull in a china shop.
Wow.
So I had to learn to communicate properly.
Yeah.
The other way, not, sort of like learn how to not let my emotions govern my mouth.
Yeah, no, I get that. This is not to generalize or stereotype, but my favorite thing about my time living in New York was that people in general were way more direct.
Yeah, you know where you stand.
Okay, and that to me was, even though growing up in a small town in Indiana, I thought New York would be the last place I would end up. It just kind of seemed like a scary place because I grew up in a very, it was very Midwestern. In its attitudes. Well, it was Evansville, so it was, maybe 90, 100,000 people.
So like a bedroom community, planned community stuff?
Farmland, so there was plenty of redneck, and, so, but so New York as opposed to L.A., where everything phony and plastic, it's nice to be there for a little while. But, man, once I got to New York and just realized that, man, once you have a friend there, and I sense this in you, once you have a friend there, man, they're there.
Yeah, all the time.
You and but yeah, exactly. There's no candy coating or bullshit, and there's really nothing wrong with it. I would prefer that greatly. There's Chip behind you knocking on the blind. That's my favorite. That's my favorite part. Hey, Chip. No, so... But that, so
he heard you.
Hey, Chip, what up, buddy?
He wants to
Yo, I'm going to scratch that nose. I want to get that belly. Yes, folks, Craig and I are both cat people. I won't tell you how many cats he has, but I have 3. I've been... I've only seen one cat, so... anyway, so... Yeah, so I can maybe sense that as part of your nature and your personality, having to maybe, figure out in the other direction. And
it was a struggle, to be honest with you, because it was really more about. It wasn't about the communication; it was about learning how to process my own. So it always comes down to your own insecurities, and they cause you to react a certain way. With you, it caused you to withdraw. With me, it caused me to be an asshole. But
That's such a great point you make, but because it's how we're overcoming our insecurities.
Yeah.
That generally lead to these personality traits, good, bad, or ugly, right?
Yeah.
Very interesting. That's a whole nother show right there, Craig.
That's right. That's.
We should have Craig and Andy figuring life out.
Yeah, Craig and Andy figuring life out. It's like, we should do. We set up. Remember that thing on Charlie Brown, like therapy, 5 cents.
Yeah, 5 cents. The doctor is in.
Yeah,
right?
the doctor's in. Did you ever see? You mentioned Hendrix. Did you ever see the? We're the same age, so it was like when we were really, really young. Do you remember Dick Cavett?
Oh yeah.
Did you ever see that on YouTube? They have a Hendrix when he was on Dick Cavett.
I have it on DVD.
Yeah, it's just so he's like just such a lovely guy,
I mean, again, every time he spoke, it's just. By then, he was getting tired. You could see it. I think it was right after Woodstock.
Yeah.
And so he was pretty beat down by a lot of things. But again, the eloquence and the
right?
The beauty in which he spoke. When you see the clip come up, the still that you see for the YouTube before you click on it, the one that I've seen with Dick Cavett, where he's got the blue kimono on, and there's Robert Young.
Yes, yeah, the blue kimono.
Just kind of looking at him like,
like what's going on here?
This shit, Mr. Mainstream White America.
What was it? Father knows best.
Father knows best, absolutely. Yeah. So try to. I mean, that's just the impression you get from this photo. But anyway, that's a beautiful interview.
Yeah.
And how he addresses Dick Cavett, saying there was such an uproar about the way you played the Star Spangled Banner. He said, I thought it was beautiful. And it was. It's one of the most stunning renditions of any piece of music. And there's a moment where after, and the rockets regular, and then he goes crazy.
Yeah.
That's going to go for the bombs and the missiles. And there's this one little snippet of melody that happens within the feedback, and it goes, it's that exact melody, and that might have been the right pitch because I've heard it so many times. But next time you listen to the Woodstock Star Spangled Banner, listen for and just see how impossible it was for that to happen. It was magic in the middle of mayhem, and I think it's one of the greatest guitar moments ever in the history of somebody plugging in a guitar. It's so great. So when he goes to Dick Cavett, I thought it was beautiful. That's everything, man. That's everything. It was all in the ear of the beholder. But
it was good shit. I would like to wish that we see some stuff like that now. That'd be. I had a conversation with Dave Mason. I interviewed.
Oh wow, oh my God!
And I asked him. Check this out. How he met Jimmy, because he played 12-string on
all along the Watchtower.
Right. And I said, how did you meet Jimmy? He goes, well, I just walked into this club. It was kind of like a private club, he explained it, that I guess, musicians or whatever, you needed some entry to get in there, or you could just may have to pay a fee like any other club. And he goes, I just walked into the club and Jimmy was sitting down alone at the table. I just walked over and introduced myself. Hi, Jimi Hendrix, I'm Dave. But I'm like, that with the rage of celebrity mania, that would never happen today. But what I thought was cool is
wow.
Yeah, imagine that, right? I mean, that's just the whole thing.
That is so freaking great.
Yeah, it's just nutty as hell. And but he said that. Now, where was I going with this? I was so caught up in that funniness of that story. I forgot where I'm going. Sorry.
That's all right. So we're just talking about the eloquence of Jimmy. But what a wonderful moment where, had he decided not to say hello,
right?
Dave would still had a career, but he ended up on Jimmy's one of his top 5.
Yeah, and he wound up playing on the. He played
on the recordings again. With that, there's the one note in the Woodstock solo, but as a recorded, beautiful piece of music, man, it doesn't get better than that.
No, it's pretty intense.
I mean,
and he said,
just said hello.
I'll shoot you the link when that gets published because it was a pretty good interview. You'd relate to some of the stuff there. Yeah, it was interesting.
Oh, I can imagine.
Well, thank you for sharing the where the fire comes from.
Again, I'm guessing that's my my take on what that might be, but that's a great question, man. And again, as the longer we speak together, with the recorder on or off, you've just got a great way of looking at stuff, Craig, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how bromances start.
What was the one with Paul? What's his name? name? Where he's slapping the bass. What was that movie? That was a good bro movie.
Where he's slapping the bass.
Oh crap! Yeah. Oh, what's the guy's name? Paul Rudd. You know, one of my favorites.
Yeah, I know the guy you're talking about. I don't know.
I Love You, Man, or something like that.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah. When see Rush together. Anyway.
Let me ask you this: what are some of the bigger obstacles, if any, and I'm sure you had them, that you had to overcome throughout this kind of like musical career journey?
Well, name the type of obstacle, please. Could you be more?
I mean, any personal, music related, business related, whatever you choose or feel comfortable sharing.
I think that as we've touched on, I think a common thread with most artists is business being an obstacle. It's just something I didn't want to think about. I still don't want to think about a whole lot. It's obviously we got to pay bills. We got to figure how to keep the lights on, and but it's really the last thing I want to think about. I was never driven by money. I've often quipped that I didn't get into this to be rich and famous, and I've avoided both wonderfully.
Well, I think you're pretty. I don't. And I know that's not. I think you're pretty famous with respect to what you do. I think people that look for good guitar players appreciate great playing and great songwriting. I think everybody knows you.
So I'm going to have to update my joke.
You need a new line, man.
Mildly known amongst the guitar player, whatever. So, but the idea is that I just wanted to be a good musician. I wanted to have that joy of continuing to learn and get better. But yeah, along the way, I was extremely fortunate because, like we mentioned before, because I worked really hard and I was ready for the opportunities when they arose, right? But there was no grand plan. There was no, here's the way I'm going to do it, and certainly not any experience with how to take care of money and how to really take care of myself, and standing up for myself. That was always hard, Like I say about confrontation.
Yeah, sure.
I was always the one just to, oh yeah, sure, that whatever, that's fine, just to make somebody else happy.
Not make waves.
Make waves.
Yeah.
So that bites you in the ass. Unless you've got an advocate that's taking care of stuff for you. And I've had a personal manager briefly a couple times. It's never worked out. So I'm still on my own in that regard. So I'll get help, contract wise, et cetera, when I need the help. But it's still me kind of doing what I do, and it's working out. But there's still lots of room for improvement there. So there's always obstacles with sticking up for myself and negotiating. That's not my strong suit. Musically, there's always obstacles. There's, just I think the biggest obstacle I had was realizing it's okay to be myself, if that makes sense.
I think I think that's an obstacle for everybody. Most of the guys that are our age, a lot of times I'll ask a question of, what's been the biggest change, or how's your personality change, or what are you grateful for, or whatever. And almost universally, guys that are over 50, and if you're not over 50 yet, I apologize. This is probably boring the shit out of you, and I'm really sorry. That's not my intent. But like, that's pretty universal, I think. Like, you get comfortable in your, like, I know when I hit 50, I'm like, I never really, and I don't mean to sound, I was not a person to worry what other people thought of me. But that being said, I never really did things to focus on my own happiness.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And when I around that time that I mentioned to you, right after that, the one of the when I was looking for, okay, what am I getting out of this?
Right. Sure.
That's what one of my conclusion was. I got to fucking focus on being happy.
Yeah. Well, amen to that. It's,
happiness is a choice. And I didn't get that till much later. And like, it kind of all ties into what you're saying, being comfortable in your skin and all that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's the thing. It's like, it was probably around 50. I started realizing that, what I do and how I do it, that I have something to offer. Whereas I think, and I've never considered myself a competitive person so much, but it's hard not to hear other great players and go, fuck, man, I need to know how to do that. I suck, you can do that to yourself all day. Just put on an Alan Holdsworth or Tommy Emmanuel record or Django Reinhardt or what. Pick your brilliant virtuoso. But you're never going to be that. You're never going to be that person because it's, there's all the guys that grow up, sounding like Stevie Ray Vaughan, and that's great. But at some point, you got to be you. I've worn my influences on my sleeve and still do. When you hear older stuff that sounds a bit Satriani-like or Lukather or whoever all my heroes, or the Eric Johnson-y stuff too. But at some point, you got to realize I'll never be those guys, and I don't really want to be those guys. I think I would appreciate having the ability or the technique or the, with Django, it's the technique, but it's also it's the mind,
the vibe.
How do you think of that shit? How do you, so at a certain point I have to realize, well, I'm certainly a product of all the things that I've loved up until this point of my playing career. But that includes not just the guitar plays, but every snippet of music that's meant something to me, whether it's a Brian Wilson ballad melody or a piece of Chopin or whatever the energy of a Ramones tune or a Kiss tune, all that adds up to me, because of how I've edited and whatever I've focused on. And when I focus on something, I'm obsessed. I'll listen to shit over and over and over, like that one note of that Hendrix solo. Mm-hmm. These are things that it won't be me playing that note, but I'll realize the beauty of that and why it made me feel a certain way. And that's what I'm trying to reflect. I'm trying to give listeners, me being the first listener, because I'm hearing it in my head right before you do, as I play it, I'm trying to recreate moments that have that depth, that have that pull, even if it's in Groove or Die and I'm shredding it however many BPM or the slowest of ballads, I'm hoping to have that kind of impact. I want to feel it for my own edification. Certainly it's a very selfish thing. But I am very hopeful that it's affecting other people in the same way. That would be the ultimate, I guess, as an artist, that you want to transfer that vibe,
It's interesting. I interviewed somebody and they said the joke about the 10 best guitar players. Did I tell you that? There's 10 best guitar players in the room.
I haven't heard it. Please tell.
It was something like the 10 best guitar players in the room. They're all worried about what the other 9 guys are going to do.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I've been on that stage how many times? Where you're literally, there was one stage was 13 guitar players. I'm on one end. I'm standing next to Johnny A. Ronnie Montrose is on the very far end.
Wow.
Or how about this? Okay, this is a great example of that thing where it was a NAMM show, and I think it was some Steve Vai anniversary of the Gym maybe or something. And so Ibanez had a night at a club, and it was Steve Vai and Joe Satriani and Tony McAlpine, Herman Lee, and I may be forgetting two or three other brilliant musicians. But so at the end, we're all going to play together, right? And it's like a line down the stage. I'm the last guy. Like
not too much pressure.
I mean, what are you gonna do? But you do enough of those. You just finally go. I just have to play what I play. I'm not going to out Vi. I'm not going to out Joe.
Just be Andy Timmons.
You got to be yourself, and hopefully that's good enough. I keep getting invited back, so maybe that's okay.
You passed,
but I still feel like, oh man, I'm a beginner next to these guys, But I like that feeling. I really, more so now than ever. Nobody wants to feel insecure, but I do want to feel like, man, I got a long way to go. Because that's the other thing, learning later in life, that, man, I was happiest when I was in school. I was playing, gigging 6 nights a week, in school all day, and if that wasn't happening, I'm with a buddy shedding, playing, learning, So I'm finally kind of back to that full circle, that energy and that vibe, Not being freaked out and wanting to put my tail behind my legs and go home. I want to go home. Yeah, I want to go home and practice. It's not quit. Everybody always, you'll get that. It's, oh man, you make me want to sell my guitars. I'm like, no, I want to make you go home and practice. But I've certainly said that. At some shows I go see. Oh, time to go sell shoes now. Nothing against shoe salesmen. Hello.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
But then you look at. I mean, I know that the bar that you're looking at, but then look at AC/DC, look at ZZ Top, David Gilmour.
Right, yeah.
It's not always, It's not always about, it's tough to get out of that, I got to be a better guitar player. But those guys, and Gilmore's my all-time favorite player. I love Billy Gibbons. I love AC/DC.
But that I consider those equally as inspiring.
Totally. I love all those guys, but they're not, it's not.
Get that sound, It's a different type of proficiency, but no less valuable or inspiring.
No, not at all. But my point is, they aren't playing like any of you guys that you just mentioned. They're playing much more rudimentary stuff in a sense,
and affecting a lot more people.
yeah. I hate to say it, but yeah, when those are like the 3 top selling acts of.
It's absolutely true. Absolutely true. So. I guess I'm really, really fortunate and blessed that I really appreciate all of it.
Yeah.
A jazz snob, though I could be, because I love it and I'm all about it. But I'm also a huge Kiss fan.
Do you know?
Beatles fan. I'm a classical fan. I'm so happy that I'm able to really enjoy all of it. If it's well done, I want to know how to do it, and I want to have it wash over me and be a part of my fabric.
Did you ever meet a guy when you were in New York, Randy Johnston, jazz guy?
Name sounds familiar, but I don't recall.
Yeah, I'm just curious. He was a jazz guy in the city for a long time.
Okay, I got you.
All right. I want to talk a little bit about gear.
Sure.
Were you always primarily like a single coil or Strat type guitar player?
I grew up playing Les Pauls.
Oh wow!
My first quality guitar that I bought when I was 15 was when I was 13. It was an Electra Les Paul copy. It was which I later found out was made at the same factory that made all the Ibanez lawsuit guitars. So it was a Les Paul copy, but unusually so. It had a maple neck that was a bolt-on neck, which if you're a Les Paul guy, what's always a rosewood board, ebony, and it's a neck through. But this was a cheaper guitar, so it was bolt-on maple neck, right? But it looked cool because it was a cream colored, so it was all kind of creamy white. I thought it was great. That got stolen when I was 16 out of the back of my car. I left it unattended for 20 minutes. And,
oh my God! Wow, that sucks.
That was at that point the heaviest loss I'd ever experienced.
Sure.
I cried for a week. Luckily, I was in a band with a bunch of older cats, and the band had insurance. So with the insurance money covered it, and I got to go down to ABC Music on Main Street in Evansville, Indiana, and buy a brand new Les Paul Standard.
Wow. That's highly unusual.
I know. So from then, I had a Gibson Les Paul. That ended up in a pawn shop in Denton, Texas. That's the saddest thing ever, that I lost a guitar in a pawn. But that underscores my early financial misadventures. Not having any money, but like, who loses it? Anyway, so
plenty of people.
That was after the fact. When I went to school in Miami in 1983, that first summer down there, I ended up in a top 40 band. And if you didn't have a Strat, you weren't gigging, because it was all about Nile Rodgers and just that funky, clean thing. So all I could afford was the Fender Squire had just come out that year, and so you could buy a brand new Strat for $300. Pickups weren't that great, but I, went and bought the guitar for $300. Immediately replaced it with EMGs because of Lukather was using EMGs at the time, and that was my guitar. And I still have that. It's still one of my best Strats. It's crazy how good this guitar is. And so from then I think that's what that became more of my main instrument. My voice was that style of neck and the single coilish type thing. Even though I still was playing the Les Paul throughout that period too, the Strat became more of my comfort zone. And then when I joined Danger in '89, I was a Kramer endorsee. So maybe that's kind of somewhere in between. But then when I started working with Ibanez right after Kramer went out of business, it was 92, 93, and they were like, "We want to make you your ultimate guitar. What do you want?" And I had no idea. I said, something with 6 strings? I don't know. So we do a process. I was like I mentioned earlier, I was fortunate to be in a band that was on MTV. So when Kramer went out of business, I was very loyal with them till the end. I kind of was in a good position where I could go to a NAMM show, like I'm going to tomorrow, and really kind of shop for a guitar company and try to figure out, well, who do I want to align with where do I want to be? And there was companies that wanted to work with me, again, because I'm getting this national exposure. But I looked at Ibanez and I thought, man, they've got Satriani and Vi, and my friend Reb Beach was playing on Ibanez at the time, and Paul Gilbert. I was in this kind of a hair band without much credibility musically. I want to be where those guys are, because before joining Danger, that's who I wanted to be. I'm a fan of that kind of musicianship. Mm-hmm. But here now, because I joined this band, I'm in a position, so this is great. And so I went to I'd met the Ibanez artist relations guy at a Prior Names show at an earthquake. There was a pretty good sized tremor, mild earthquake after we had checked into our hotel in Anaheim. Got to the hotel room, half naked, unpacking, in my underwear, and the building started shaking. And
wow.
I hadn't experienced this as an adult, and I had one when I was in Evansville in 1968. But this was different and very disconcerting. First instinct is to run out in the hallway and go, "What the fuck is that?" And there's this other guy in the same state of undress next to me. Wow! And hey, I'm Andy. Hey, I'm Chris. That was Chris Kelly, the artist relations guy for Ibanez. So I kind of knew the guy. We'd see each other. Hey, earthquake buddy. Hey, how's it going? So I went to him and said, "Hey, I'm in this position and I'm looking for a company." And he says, "Well, our program is full, but let me." He'd heard my tape of instrumental stuff that I was doing with my own band. So he says, "Well, we don't like your band, but we like you." And
that's kind of. We don't like your band, meaning Danger.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, I thought he listened to the Andy Timmons band. He said, "We don't like your band." I'm like, "Well, that's kind of
love this."
Fucking weird. Yeah.
No, that was anyway. So that became the relationship, and they were like, "What guitar do you?" So They started sending me their factory, like the USA Custom and all these different guitars, and they were cool. But I'd had this Kramer that was built for me that was essentially a guitar that looked like Eric Johnson's old '50s Strat. And they made it from like either Chandler or Warmoth parts, and it was literally just like Strat neck on a Strat body, and we tried to relic it to make it look cool. Horrible looking guitar, but it was like an old really cool vintage Strat. And so I eventually sent that to Ivan and said, "I love this neck. Can we do something, but with this neck shape?" And that became this guitar, the AT100, which basically like a modernized 50 Strat. Just had a lot of that aesthetic. So Leo's original design with some tweaks on the electronics and the hardware, and it's been that was in '94, and it's been my main guitar ever since. So kind of, it straddles the classic, 2 single coil humbucker, trying to get the more Les Paul beef out of the bridge and the more of a Strat in the neck, etc. And that's still what I love, though I love all guitars. I eventually did get another Les Paul. As somebody gave a very nice producer that I worked for at one point. I don't know if it was because I told him the story about my Les Paul ending up in a pawn shop, but I think he just think I needed a Les Paul.
That's
and
cool.
He brought one to a session for me to use and gave it to me.
That's really cool.
I still have that, and it's my only Les Paul. And so I guess over the years, primarily I do love vintage Strats, and I have a few of those that I do use on recordings. But the Ibanez, they still make it. They're still available in 2 different versions. There's one that's identical to this guitar that's made in Japan, and that's available. You can find it on Sweetwater, at sweetwater.com. There's also one made in Indonesia, which I really drug my feet on because anything that I was ever going to release as a signature, it was important to me that it was exactly what I use.
Sure.
Because growing up in an era where you'd see guys in ads in the guitar magazines, you go, "I've never seen him with that guitar on stage. Well, what's going on here?" The one thing that always came to mind, Steve Morse was in an ad for the Fender Lead 1. It was like the single pickup, cheap Fender. I'm like, Steve, really? It's always, and I'm not dogging Steve.
No, it is what it is, man.
What I'm getting at is like, is that what the guy really uses? Or you see this wall of amps and it's actually a pig nose behind with a mic on it, or whatever. You hear these stories, right? So I never wanted to be that guy. So it was important for me when we first did the 1999 first signature model of the AT100. I didn't compromise on anything. They kept coming to me, saying, "Well, it's going to be kind of expensive to do it exactly like yours. We could do this and this and this to make it cheaper." I went, "No, I'm not. Let's just not do it if we're not." So they very gladly, agreed. They understood the integrity that I was trying to maintain, And so when that guitar was released, it was identical to my guitar, sans the years of wear, So when they came to me about doing a less expensive model, I was very skeptical. They had a factory that had just opened in Indonesia that were making some guitars for Vai and Satriani, and I was hearing good things about the quality because they'd sent the Japanese over there to open it. Same machines, and it could cut the price in half, right? So they approached me about it. I said, well, make a prototype, of course. It's got to be great. And they did. And whereas the prototypes leading up to my release of my signature model, they did about 4 or 5 to get it right. This first prototype they bring me from Indonesia, I was on the road with Olivia Newton-John, and they came to a hotel somewhere in California. I had this guitar, and I opened it up, and I had nothing to say about it.
Wow, it was spot on.
It was perfect. So they changed the tuners and the bridge. So it's actually more of a traditional Fender-style guitar because of that. The construction, everything about it, I was like, this is it. This is great. So I was very happy to, because my main signature guitar was so expensive, it was, I think, off-putting to some people. Why should I pay, $3,000 for an Ibanez when I could get a Sur or this or that? And I got that, but it was the quality that was similar to the higher end guitars, right? But this was a way that people could get the same neck shape, which is really kind of what people really gravitate towards the guitar. It's the same pickups, so it's just the bridge and the tuners. And if they want to change those out, they can. So you get my great guitar for about half the money. So I agreed to that, but that's as I talked about privately earlier. There's never going to be anything that I'm going to endorse if it's not something I'm really using. Because I don't want to get that reputation, and I've had, you just see people you have to kind of question every now and then. Now, I'm saying that now, and I have 3 different, maybe even if you count this company in Brazil that I have an Octavia style pedal with, there's 4 different companies that are making pedals for me. But they've been on my board prior to that, you know what I'm saying? It's like they were all very organic relationships. And to get to something you did ask earlier when we were chatting before turning the tape deck on, how do I decide?
Yeah, I was going to ask. Let's talk about how do you get approached by everybody? I mean, you're Andy Timmons. Everybody wants you to, everybody. You're a likable guy. You're a great player. And everybody, I'm sure, wants to have you with their stuff in your hands on your pedal board. How do you decide who to go with?
Well, there's 2 very important categories here. First and foremost, I have to dig the gear. It has to be something I'm actually using. There was a point where, I had a series of different contracts with Ibanez over the years, and it's basically just saying, we'll make you guitars, you play our guitars, you're happy, we're happy, great. There was a point where I wasn't so happy, and I was kind of feeling like, because I love my vintage guitars, I love different style guitars. And the relationship I'd had with Mesa Boogie at that point was there was no exclusive, there was not a contract, there was nothing. It's like, you like our amps, play our amps. If you're using them, we're happy to help you get an amp. If you need an amp in Bologna, we'll find one for you. What? And I just thought, I want to have that same relationship with guitars. Why not, use my vintage Strats more often? Why not, And there had been some things at the company that I wasn't happy with. Those people or persons are now gone, whatever. But at that point, and
let this be a warning to anybody who pisses Andy Timmons off. Those people are now gone. If you want job security, don't piss off Andy Timmons.
But I never addressed it directly like that. It was like,
of course.
What? It was they were going to discontinue the AT300, which was another signature guitar we did. I thought it's just a good time to take a break. Let's, I just said, look. I just want to kind of play what I play, and I didn't renew any kind of agreement, but I also didn't publicize this fact. I didn't publicize the fact that I'm no longer an Ibanez guitar endorser. Well, in a very short period of time, word did get out, and I got contacted by a lot of guitar companies, which was very gratifying, because people found out, oh, he's not working with them. Maybe we can, make you a signature.
Yeah, of course.
Guitar. And I could have had a guitar at that point. For whatever reason, my career has had this trajectory of a very slow, nice build. It's been very organic because a lot of it's, especially with the internet, I didn't have to do anything. aside from just keep doing what I was doing, because people were posting videos, and here I'm sitting in with Joe Satriani, that gets posted. So there was all these things that were kind of organically building a larger fan base. So at this point, my name, however, had gotten out, and so I was in demand. I'll saying this to kind of collect some thoughts to your question. And so within that period of time, I'm getting offers, but the last thing I wanted to do, and there could have been some very lucrative things that could have happened. I didn't want to be the guy that you see playing this guitar one year, and then he's in the magazine for this guitar the next year, and then the next year he's with this other company. Again, being very sensitive to that type of whoring, whatever you want to call it, just kind of going wherever the money is. Or
well, it's just really inconsistent in your own playing on top of that.
To me, it's insincere, Not that any of these companies couldn't have built me a fine guitar.
Sure.
I was just in a position where I just want to do what I want to do, and I didn't want that image of a guy jumping around for opportunity's sake, right? So what ended up happening, in whatever year that was, a year or two went by, and then I'd been part of Hoshino's 90th anniversary.
Hoshino is the parent company of Ibanez and Tama, if I'm right?
Ibanez and Tama, exactly. And so there's videos that surfaced from that show, my version of Cry For You, which is still my most viewed video, 2 million or whatever it is. But I'm also, jamming with Paul Gilbert and Steve Vai, and it's a very kind of a famous night now. So they were about to have their 100th anniversary, and they wanted to invite Paul and Marty Friedman and Steve Vai again. And even though I wasn't affiliated with the company, they reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you come do this? Simon Phillips is going to do it. I know you're still playing with Simon." I said, "I'd be honored. Are you kidding me? What a great thing." Full well knowing they might, want to patch things up. In the interim, where it was a couple of years, I kept going back to my main Ibanez guitar. It's like I love all these vintage guitars, but I can't do on those guitars what I do on this guitar. I just realized at a certain point, this guitar is really me.
Right.
As romantic as an old Les Paul or as romantic as an old Strat looks and sounds. They have there's something romantic. You can just look at it and just go, "Fuck, man, that's so cool." But I just realized that at a certain point, man, I'm so associated with this guitar, and it's truly the guitar I want to play. So at that concert in Japan, they said, "Well, we're thinking about reissuing the AT100. What do you think?" And that was a point of contention because they made a limited run in '99. They did think it was too Strat-like for them to do consistently, but that story changed, and that thought changed. And it was organic. It was like, I'm so glad to hear you say that because this is the guitar that I'm playing. It was perfect.
So everything happened,
yes,
like the way it was supposed to, kind of.
The way it was supposed to happen. And I've known everybody at that company, and they're really a family company. I love so many people there, and so it was very easy to get back together. It was nice to take a break to maybe appreciate each other a little bit more. Let's say that. Now that also goes along with pedals and amps and what has really been the guiding factor are two things. What I've mentioned about is the piece of gear. I got to love the gear first, and then we can talk. There was one guitar company that contacted me, and the president of the company called me. Won't mention the names, but the guy called me and was trying to sway me to, "Hey, you should be a part of our team." And I was so turned off by the guy. I'd already heard
Gibson.
bad. Only saying was it's like I have to really love the people. This is somebody. You might have a great piece of gear, but if that company is kind of known for being dicks to people or not being cool, or you just don't feel any kind of simpatico with them or any kind of relationship, I really want to love the people. And so that's the other equal part to the equation. The gear's got to be there, but if we're going to have a relationship,
I
can't use a pedal or a piece of gear that I don't have to know about the people, right? I don't have to know about who designed the original Ibanez TS9 or CS9 chorus. I love the chorus pedal. I'm going to use it. But if it's to the point where they want to release a signature piece of gear and I'm going to have that relationship, it's real important to me to really like the people. And so all the companies I'm working with now, I've got that kind of relationship. The guys with Mesa Boogie, man, I love their ethic. They really care about quality. They could be making cheap stuff to sell a bunch of amps at Guitar Center for less money, but they're not going to do it. They care about what they do. And it's the same with the Exotic Company and the JHS and Carl Martin, some of the people that I have signature pedals with. Love the gear, really, really enjoy working with the people. It's tough. I've got this music shop here in McKinney called the Guitar Sanctuary. My best friend, George Fuller, owns and runs the shop.
It's a great name. I love that name.
Guitar Sanctuary.
The Guitar Sanctuary. Is that the one where there's like a theater? I don't know if you told me that or someone told me about that place, that there's like a
probably
theater.
Told you about it. Yeah. It's like a 300-seat theater. And so Eric Gales just played there. Mike Keneally played there. I play there all the time. They're bringing in really cool, guitar-centric acts, which would normally come to the Dallas area because, the fan base isn't what it is yet for the larger gigs. So it's the perfect place. But the other thing is it's a relationship that I have with the guys that work there. And they carry mainly, it's like more of the upper end stuff. So all the boutique pedals, they carry the Mesa amps. They've got all kinds of cool guitars. It's not the cheap stuff, but it's the good stuff. So I've got a guy there that knows the tones I go for. So I can walk in, oh, Andy, you should try this, I've got a filter. There's so many people making so many products now that I don't have time to check it all out. I might see something online, or I'll look at Jeff Beck's pedal board or whoever and go, and I've certainly bought plenty of gear. Maybe I'll sound better now, right? And maybe people are buying my gear because,
Well, that's interesting that you said that, because that's why everybody buys gear.
Oh, I think so. We're hoping to get closer to the tones that we enjoy from
hearing other people, yeah.
The other people. And so this guy, and this is how I ended up working with JHS, was there was a pedal called the Angry Charlie that came out whenever it came out. And he said, Andy, I think you'd really like this pedal. It's like a really nice lead tone in a box, Wait a minute,
JHS? They have they have this pedal. And I'm sorry to just derail this for a second, but they have this distortion pedal they don't make anymore. The American something. Do you know it?
I don't know the American.
It's the shit. I have it on my search list on Reverb.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it's a really good pedal, and they don't make it anymore. Anyway, never mind.
Okay. That's who I'm going to be working with at the NAMM show. So, just email me later if you get the name of it.
No, I will. I'm going to, because I want you to.
Hey, so he had this pedal, and I dug it, and then but I was still using the lead channel of my Mesa Boogie. But I ended up in a clinic I was in Swindon, in the UK, which happens to be where Daniel Steinhardt, the guy that designed my gig rig switching system and built my pedal board, comes to the gig, and also with him is Dave Gregory from XTC, they're in a band together, right? So these two really great players, good friends, and but the Mesa Boogie amp I had that day, the effects loop was out. I think it was probably a bad tube, which happens, and so I couldn't use my amp in the normal way, which would be delay in the effects loop, using the amp for some distortion, some pedal distortion in front of the clean channel. But now I had to get my lead tone, everything in front of the amp, because I can't use the effects loop. So I can't put the delay before the amp if I'm using distortion on the amp, because that would distort. Anyway, it's not the way to do it for me. So I had this Angry Charlie. Well, okay, this will be my lead tone tonight, right? And just had a great gig. Just love the tone. Amp distortion is cool, but when it's all coming from this preamp, I had more control. And Dave and Daniel after the gig was like, man, the sound was great, and you played great. I'm like, yeah, I like that, So I started using this pedal, this Angry Charlie, in front of the clean channel of my Mesa, right? Something different, loved it. And so that next NAMM show, I thought, I should go. I want to go meet these guys. I like this pedal. I should go introduce myself. One of those, hey, let's sit down and say hi to Jimi Hendrix, right? So I go to meet Jim. This is one of those things where you have a decision to say hello to somebody, and it can change your life, or something can happen, right? So I go to say hi to Josh, who's the guy that designed the pedal and owns the company. He goes, oh man, I'm glad you came by. We had this pedal called the Angry Charlie for several years, and it kind of sold a little bit. Then all of a sudden we saw this uptick in sales, and then they said, yeah, you've been using this, haven't you? And so he said, well, if you ever want to do, maybe we should do a custom signature version. What would you like to change about the pedal? And then we can customize it and make it your pedal.
That's awesome.
That's great. So he had an idea about something that he wanted to do with it, and I had some ideas. And that's what became the AT pedal. And it's literally started as the Angry Charlie tone, and then we just kind of tweaked a couple things, modified it. And it's like their second biggest selling pedal.
That's awesome, man. And you're going to be playing that at NAMM?
Yeah, so we've had the AT pedal out for a couple years now, and we just did a new version of it. I was just in Kansas City, where they're based, last week. And so, of course, after you use something for a while, you could start going, what if it could do this? And so I wanted to add a little bit more gain to it, because once you're on, push it to 11, if we're going to channel our inner Nigel. So now we've got an additional stage of gain, a boost, basically, that has been added to the pedal. It's the same footprint, it's the same small pedal, but with an extra switch that you can add if you just need a little bit more gain. So it's just called the AT Plus.
More gain. It sounds like a Nigerian email. We need more gain.
Dear Mr. Sir, I'm the prince of... so it's one of those things where... so I mean... I'm always with the tone. I'm always struggling between gain and tone. The more distortion you have, the thinner the sound can get, the more buzzy the top end can be. That's why the Angry Charlie really worked for me, and then became the AT. Was I could really taper the top end, and I had just enough gain to where it was enough to be my lead tone, but wasn't harsh. And so now it's nice to be able to add a little bit more when I just need a little bit more fluidity and a little bit more give in the string. I like a lot of dynamic, so less gain is sometimes better for me, but you need enough to really flow. So now I can add a little bit more in the sections of music where I could use a little bit extra help. Because the more gain, it's easier to play, right?
That's correct.
But if you make it too easy, that your tone is going out the window, right? So now I've got that accessibility on this one pedal to be able to go, okay, I got my little push over the cliff when I need it, right? So that's what we're debuting. And then the Exotic company is reissuing. I had a signature pedal with them several years ago called the BB Preamp AT. We collaborated on another pedal. They ended up being just the original pedal that I'd gotten from them back in 2006.
Can I ask you a question? Why don't they actually put your name on there? Why do they do AT?
Oh, that one
Just
has...
curious.
It says AT, but it has my signature somewhere on it.
Yeah, because it'd sell a lot more if it says Andy Timmons and AT. Because I
think people get the AT as...
Do they?
And this one they make a limited run. The first two times they did the AT limited edition, they made 1,000, and each time all 1,000 pedals sold in 3 days.
Wow! Holy shit! Shows you what I know.
Wow. This time it's a limited run, but they made 3,000, so I'm expecting they'll probably sell okay. But this one, okay, so old and improved, right? So this one, the two runs of 1,000 pedals that Exotic did of the BB, I always kind of called it was like 98% exactly like my original pedal, which they just couldn't recreate. At a certain point, they changed how they made the BB preamp. They changed the type of compression, how it was compressing, and where odd versus even harmonics. So when they wanted to issue a signature model, I said, I just wanted to sound like this original pedal that I originally got from you. Nothing else sounds like this. Not even other ones from that same era, because components can vary. Let's do this pedal. They tried everything they could to get it back to that exact spec. They did a great job, and it sounded great. But on this one, I'm like, it was so close. What else might there be? What did we what did we miss? So it gets down to it. They were researching paint and like all these things. They wanted to. They sent me 2 prototypes, right? Tell us which one you liked the best. They didn't tell me what was different.
Sure.
What do you like? Prototype 1. Okay, that's it. It's what's different, because it's night and day. This is it. Well, we researched, and this old, cheaper, less reliable switch, the on-off switch.
That was the only difference. Wow.
So they said, but this prototype 2, which sounded good, it sounded great. There was just this air, there was this thing, this magic thing. That was what I was missing about this other pedal. So I said, you know what? It's cheaper, it's less reliable, but that's the tone. So they agreed that it was the right thing to do. So most people these days have their pedals on boards where they're not having to physically turn it on and off. It's done by remote switching.
Sure.
But it's the tone. It was that's what was most important to me. And so this one nails it. I was just like, I was dying laughing, going, okay, it's down to the cheap switch. Really, that was it. So
that's awesome. So tell people the names of these so they can go out and buy them.
What I was talking about was the BB preamp by Exotic. So they have a limited run of the BB8. They call it the AT, of course. My initials, the AT BB preamp, and that's just been released last December. The new JHS pedal, the original AT, which is just the @ sign, I thought that was clever. They said, all our pedals have a little insignia. We don't put a name on it. We just put, one's got an airplane, one's got a Statue of Liberty. What would be your insignia? And I always thought, okay, the @ sign. It's a symbol, right? So it's my initials. So that original pedal is still available now, but now the AT Plus. I haven't seen what the stencil is going to look like. I'm guessing that the @ sign with a plus will be available at this NAMM, and that's the boostable original AT pedal. Now, Carl Martin is a company that I also work with. They're I think they're Norwegian. Where are they from? Denmark. My apologies, from Denmark, and they make a dual compressor for me. I've been using their compressor pedal for years in front of my Lone Star, mainly as a boost. I don't use so much compression as a classic compressor. I use it as the volume boost is just wonderful with my Lone Star, and any amp really. So, but then there's the occasion where you want that MXR, just real squishy, bright, clean, jangly sound, which you have to change all the controls to do. So what they did for me was they made a an A-B-able, so 2 separate compressors.
Oh, that's great.
Channel A, I've got my classic boost sound. Channel B, when I need that real jangly, squishy, sounds great on the single coil. And it's remote switchable, so I can tie it into my G2, and depending on the patch, and I only use it on clean sounds, I can have it be my traditional boost or that real squishy clean sound. So that's the Andy Timmons, they call it the double comp, so compressor limiter Andy Timmons version. So those are the main pedal thingies. That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
And, but again, it's what I've already been organically using beforehand, and then we tweak things, and so people can know if they're buying stuff that I'm associated with that it's exactly what's on my board. I don't have some special version. It's exactly what's being manufactured for sale is what's on my board. So I'm really proud of that. I don't want any deception happening. I want it to be really what I'm using.
And let me tell everybody that I had to practically beg Andy to talk about these pedals. No, I'm serious. It's like, and most people come on shows like mine. I'm not disillusioned. They want to promote something. I had to literally beg you to please let me talk about this. So, and I think one of the reasons we get along is I really respect your authenticity about yourself. I don't think that's easy to come by for anybody. And when someone is genuine and authentic, I really, even if I don't like them, to be honest with you, I mean, I do like you, but what I'm saying.
To me by that, and I appreciate that, man, because I appreciate that in you too. So you make it easy to chat.
Well, good. I'm going to ask. I could literally we should just go to the margarita bar and chill for a bit. I'm going to ask you one more question and I could literally speak to you all day, but I know you got to get going. So I'm going to ask you one more question. But before I do you want to talk about guitarexperience.net?
Yeah, absolutely. That's been happening now. I guess we launched it in March, so we started working on it at the beginning of 2017. And I've had this idea for several years now of, now that I've gotten back into teaching in a variety of ways. I think I mentioned that I started giving a couple lessons at my friend's guitar sanctuary after not having really specifically taught lessons. I've always done clinics for Ibanez and Mesa Boogie where I play and I answer some questions, and I enjoy that. But early on in my career, I always felt teaching to be kind of difficult for whatever reason. I guess I wasn't as confident or as organized in my thought process of how to present what it is that I do, or maybe wasn't enjoying the fact that I didn't feel like people were really working on the shit once I showed it to them anyway. They were coming in.
Newsflash.
Yeah. I know, 10%, right?
If you're lucky.
It's the same with all self-help programs or whatever. Yeah, there's only a certain amount of people that are really going to apply. But long story short, I had that opportunity to do some private teaching, and I started hearing myself be good at it. And it was that.
Imagine that.
I was genuinely surprised. Or there was another tipping point too, where I was doing a clinic for Mesa Boogie, and I was in Tucson. This goes back several years earlier, but my brother teaches is it Arizona State that's in Tucson? I should know the name of my brother's college.
Fucking, I don't know.
I think it's Arizona State, but he's a philosophy professor, and he writes.
Holy shit.
He writes, he's written books that colleges use for their classes. This guy, he's a teacher, and he's certainly the smartest one in the family. He came.
Definitely the most long-winded. Those the philosophy guys.
Speaking about stuff that's a bit over my head. Anyways, he came out to my clinic, and so I play, and then people are asking questions, and he said to me after, you should be a teacher. You're really good at this. And part of my upbringing was there wasn't a whole lot of compliments being exchanged between family members, parents, kids, otherwise. So when those moments happened, they were always very big, very special to me. And for him to say that to me was not that there wasn't lots of love. Okay, it was just shown in different ways. There was not.
I totally get it.
Verbally demonstrative or physically demonstrative. So that I was like, wow, I really felt the winds under my. It went to my sail a little bit at that point. And then again, having this one-on-one experience with a couple of people. And then I got asked to come do some teaching nearby you, the True Fire Company in St. Pete.
St. Pete.
And I've been offered many times over the years to do instructional videos, but it was a business thing. I was always kind of hung up going, man, I'm not confident with this arrangement, or am I going to be taken advantage of? And I was insecure about teaching, so I never followed through with it. Though a lot of people were asking me, why don't you do an instructional?
It's funny when you were talking about the pedals.
Yeah.
Stuff, I've only been playing a couple of years up, but I approach guitar like my vehicle. I put the key in and start. And I was listening to you. I said, man, I would love to take lessons just for him to explain.
Yeah.
All the. I mean, just to I know what an effects loop is, but I don't understand it, and there's a lot to learn about guitar besides,
yes,
picking it up and playing.
Oh, you're right. And that's probably something that we'll make a section on the website.
And I know nothing about it. I'm like sonically illiterate when it comes to producing tones. I know what I hear, but.
There's definitely there's a lot to touch on for sure in that way. But long story short, I ended up being approached by the True Fire Company, and there was a friend I have that worked a lot for them named Jeff McElwain, who he and I had worked at.
I know who he is. Yeah,
Jeff McElwain. Yeah, he's a great player.
He's out of New York.
I think so. Yeah. I think so. He and I had met at a guitar camp that I did several years up in Connecticut called the National Guitar Summer Workshop. Anyway, so we were friends back in the 90s, and so then he was doing a lot of work with True Fire, and he said, hey, I really think you should do this. Carlton has done it, Robin Ford has done it, who are two of my heroes, and they said they're very happy with the people, they're very happy with the business arrangement, they've done very well with their series, please consider this. And I once I heard that Larry and Robin had done it, because I know they've been through a lot business-wise, and they're not going to deal with anybody that they don't feel good about. And so I agreed to do it, and I had the most wonderful experience with everybody at the company. The guy Brad Winkos and Allie there. I just resonated with them as people right off the bat, and the engineer I was working with. They made it so easy for me to come in and just stream like I'm doing with you now, just talk about stuff and play. And we like the first weekend we got 5.5 hours of content.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty.
Yeah, because filming is not, you don't sit down and film 5.5 hours. People don't realize.
No, they don't realize. So, but I was able to do everything. There was never really a need for second takes ever. The playing, the talking.
You have to do second takes sometimes? I only have people that do it in one take on this show, Andy.
one time, you know. Yeah, don't sit with me when I'm making a record, by the way. It's either going to happen the first take or about a year later. Yeah. There's not much in between.
There's no wiggle room, huh?
Long story short, the experience was so good, and I thought, you know, man, I could be doing this on my own, because I already had friends. There's a guy named Tim Miller. There's an amazing guitar player, had launched his own site, and more I was seeing people, Dave Weiner, they were all doing these sites. So why not do something specifically for my fans out there? I knew from the way that the True Fire video was selling that there's great potential here. So I'd wanted to do it for a long time, but it took me making the decision. I really made a decision to stay home last year instead of tour so much, you know, for a variety of personal reasons, basically. And so I thought, this is my time, because I had this idea for a few years, but there was never time to do it. I was in and out of the house so much, and I was always in a state. I called all the years of touring here, I'm always in a state of recovery. You know, you get home and you're getting, you know what I mean. It's like there's so many different ways that I earn a living, but I always feel like I'm recovering from whatever had happened, and you know,
I haven't. I don't know from experience, because I haven't gone on the road. But I don't like leaving the house to travel. So I can't imagine. I mean, I like leaving the house, but not I'm not a guy to travel. It's really got to be tough.
Well, you know,
especially you got a family. You know,
that's the thing. My son's now 13, and I'm married 20 years now. So happy to say that, you know, I'm still married and my kid's doing well. But
congratulations on that. That's a long time.
Thank you very much. You're bucking the odds, man. So not to say it takes some work, and there's occasionally you realize,
hell yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So this last year's been great. It's not that I haven't toured, but I've just done things in much smaller increments or done one-off shows, because I do enjoy touring. I'm not saying that, gosh, all these years has been a drag. I love being out there. I love playing. I love meeting lots of folks. But it takes a toll personally and physically. So this year, you know, was for a multitude of reasons, was just a good year to just do less away from home. But that allowed me to actually start the process of recording content to become what's now the guitarexperience.net. And so when I started making, and even a couple years prior, I'd been making outlines and ideas of here's what I want the content to be like. And so essentially, you know, I wanted it to be guitar lessons, but I also wanted it to be some entertainment just for people that aren't going to maybe work on everything that I'm teaching, but which is very deep and exhaustive. I mean, we have what's called the Song of the Month, and each month I take a song from my back catalog, and sometimes for the first time ever, just play in front of the camera, start to finish, the song as close to the recorded version as I can, whatever the people are used to hearing. I'm going to try to record it as close to that as possible.
Is that ever tough, like on your older stuff? Like, shit, I got to go relearn my own parts?
And some I can't, but some you know, I take the time to do it.
Yeah.
So what we do is I record the video of me playing it. I send it. I've got a transcriptionist in Sao Paulo, Brazil, who I met at a trade show, who just came up to me and said, "Hey, I've transcribed your Sgt. Pepper record. Tell me what you think." And it was perfect. It was like, okay, this guy's great. And I needed somebody that I could feel was accurate. And so I'll send him the video. He watches it, transcribes it, sends it to me. And luckily, he sends it to me in tablature, regular notation. But also, there's a guitar program called Guitar Pro, and this is the way we offer the transcriptions on the website: regular notation, but also in Guitar Pro, it's a program that you see the music, but it also plays it as it goes by. Got a guitar patch, and you can slow it down and you can loop it. It's genius. So what this does for me is I can read, but the way I phrase is pretty complicated. For me to sit and read a transcription of my own song would take days. I hate it. But this, I can now see the music. It plays it for me, so I can easily recognize when something's not right. 98% of what he sends me is spot on accurate. And I just have to go, the third note of bar 79, that's actually, you know.
Wow, there's a lot of work on your part putting this together. People don't realize.
So that's just me playing the song. Now we get in my studio here, and I get on camera, and I teach basically how I recorded it, what gear I used, any thought process behind the composition, and then I go note for note throughout the entire song and show you how to do it. I'm going to tell you what the notes are how I play it, what technique is involved, and what's wonderful. And you get this from my conversation with you. I'll go for a while, and so I go on these tangents, and I'm really getting in, and it's stuff that I don't plan it. I sit down and I start talking to you about the song, and so I'm within me, playing note for note. I go, oh, I think this is why I did that, and I'll start to explain the technique, or here's what you have to do to get that note to come out this way. I'm picking this way, but I'm also muting these strings a certain way. Stuff I assure you wasn't being thought about while I played it.
Right.
I'm at a point now where I can go, oh, I recognize what this is, and I'm going to tell you how to do it. And so for each song, there's like an hour of just me talking about that song, and sometimes more than an hour, and it's thorough, And again, I'm enjoying the process. And if somebody really wants to get down to that detail, it's there. So we have that, and there's some stuff where I'm talking about jazz and playing with my friend Nick. I have a photo gallery now. Everybody I've ever met, at shows or gone to a concert, I've taken photos with and asked for autographs. I'm a huge fanboy. So I
need to do that more. I meet guys that I met guitar player. All the guitar when they come through town, all the guys I met, we always hang out and go to lunch. So I hung out with a guy last week, and I come back. My wife goes, "You got a picture, right?" I'm like, "Oh no," I'm like an idiot with that.
People aren't comfortable with that, and some people it doesn't mean anything, but to me it really does. And
sure.
So I've got this large collection of photos with me with some pretty interesting people, and so instead of just putting up a photo gallery, here's me and Ringo, or here's me and Keith Richards and Ronnie Wood, you're going to see the picture, but then I talk about it for
that's really cool.
It could be 10 or 15 minutes, and I narrate how did that happen? What does that person mean to me? What was going on when the picture was taken? So it's a very in-depth look at all these photos. So I just did a bunch of them yesterday. I go to Nick's studio for that. He'll sit there, and I've got this folder of all these photos, and he'll randomly pick one out to surprise me.
That's cool.
So yesterday we talked about Olivia Newton-John, and we talked about Nuno Betancourt, who we toured together back in 1990.
I haven't heard that name in a while.
We talked about Pete Best.
Oh, wow. From the Beatles.
Yeah, I met him twice now, which is just sometimes even the stories of how we met are crazy, So that's a section. Then also we're putting up vintage videos that aren't on YouTube, but I've got a cabinet full of VHS and DVDs of recording sessions and gigs and stuff people haven't seen. So there's all this other content that's kind of fun for me. So it's very biographical along with instructional. And
you're really good at telling stories, so people must dig it.
I hope so. Not as good as some, but the fun thing for me is, and this isn't hopefully not being too self-aggrandizing, but I want stuff to be documented because I won't be here forever. And it's important for me to demonstrate these songs while I can still do it, and tell the stories while I still remember it. you know what I mean? So it's for me. I think it's not to say I'm just this important player, but all the people that I'm a fan of, and I'll go and research every little bit of every little thing, And if somebody discovers me long after I'm passed, and they know that there's this wealth of recordings of me explaining shit, it's so valuable. You know what I mean? If we had Hendrix sitting there telling us, "Oh man, yeah, when I was digging on this Curtis Mayfield thing," So again, not comparing myself in any way to people at that level, but as a fan, of people of all different levels of fame or notorieties, I emailed the guy. Maybe you'll appreciate this. There's a guy named Shel Talmy, who was a producer in England in the mid '60s. Now he was an American guy. I could list the Who's first album, Anywhere Anyhow, Substitute, Kids Are All Right. This is the guy that produced that.
He produced them. Wow.
Tell me, all the Kinks hits up until Waterloo Sunset. You Really Got Me, All Day, All the Night, Tired of Waiting for You, Till the End of the Day.
Wow, that's a great show.
So Tom Petty had a show called Buried Treasure on XM Sirius for years and years and years. And now they have a whole channel dedicated to that show where he just gets on and he plays old records. And it's like I'm hanging out with my older brother because they're the same age and it's all the same. But he goes deep on rhythm and blues and early Little Richard, but he'll play T-Bone Walker, Muddy Waters, He'll play 60s pop stuff. He'll play 70s. But he'll play Lucinda Williams, whatever he digs. But he played a tune called Fortune Teller by Tony Jackson. Tony Jackson was the original singer for the Searchers, who had Needles and Pens. They were a big English group. And I hear this record, and he goes, yeah, produced by Shel Talmy. And I said, that sounds exactly like the same players on You Really Got Me. Same guitar sound, same drummer for sure. And that's another story. But there's a drummer named Bobby Graham that played on so many hit records you have no idea. But he played, a lot of pop. I can't even mention some because I can't mention it. He played on all the Kinks hits. All the early Kinks stuff was not Mick Avery. They brought a session guy in, Bobby Graham. I recognized the snare sound immediately. That's Bobby Graham. But I go, man, Shel Talmy, that's so freaking great. There's a book that Bobby Graham had written before he died called Session Man. He talks about all these sessions. And there's a quote from Shel Talmy saying, Bobby Graham was my favorite drummer of the 60s. I agree he's my favorite drummer of the 60s with Ringo. I hear this track, and I go, but that's the same rhythm guitar sound as You Really Got Me. Well, it turns out for years that everybody was saying, oh, it's Jimmy Page playing the solo on You Really Got Me.
I've heard the same thing.
Yeah, here's the truth to that. That comes from Bobby Graham, who I've spoken to personally before he passed away, and Ray Davies has corroborated that, well, we were there and it was Dave Davies. The other part of the truth was it was Jimmy Page on rhythm guitar. He played rhythm guitar. He was playing on a lot of sessions, and a lot of stuff that Bobby Graham was on, Jimmy Page was on. They're session guys, but this is before Zeppelin, of course. But there it is. I recognize that guitar sound. That's fucking Jimmy Page. I haven't read that anywhere. I just know it is, right? Because I recognize Bobby Graham's snare. There's the sound that's on You Really Got Me and All Day and All the Night. It's the same guy. So I get to researching Shel Talmy online. Oh, he's still alive. That's great. Oh, he's living in Chicago. Oh, there's an email contact. Shel, man, I'm a big fan of your work. I'm discovering more and more. I'm a big fan of Bobby Graham and his drumming. Thanks for all the years of listening. 2 hours later, I get a response.
That's so cool.
He says, thanks so much. Bobby was one of my favorite people as well as players. I'm not sure why I started telling this story, but only to say that I'm just a huge fan, and to have any kind of connection with the people that have made this music that has meant so much to me, And I also want to get more information about Bobby, because eventually I want to be able to tell his full story, which the general public doesn't know. But he's really one of the most important drummers of the 60s, and people don't know about him, and it drives me crazy. But I'm glad I met him before he passed away, and we'll tell more of that story later. But for legal reasons, I can't discuss it here, Craig.
Holy shit. So, see, I can't get you to sell. Even I got to beg you to sell. GuitarExperience.net, so people can go there and sign up and get all this good stuff. Hey, this is Craig. I just need to interrupt real briefly here and let you know that this project that we're talking about, that Andy's working on, that Andy has, I want to give you the proper URL. It's not Guitar Experience, EXP, like the word experience. It's guitar, the letter Experience. So guitar, XPERIENCE.net. Back to the show.
Yes, absolutely. There's various levels of, it's like you can do a monthly membership, or you can do a yearly membership where you get more access.
Let me make you super uncomfortable. What is the price?
I think for monthly it's $40.
That's it?
Yeah, $40 a month, and then if you want to do a year in advance, resave money, it's $360, and you get way more access. You get access to kind of everything. Where the monthly, I think you're limited to a couple of months peripheral of what's been recorded.
I can't believe it's only $40.
Still very valuable. $40 is what you'd pay probably for the transcription and the video of just the one song.
Maybe.
You commit to do that monthly, and you're getting a lot of stuff. You're getting so much depth from what I have to offer, as far as the techniques, the process, seeing me do it, which so many instructional videos I bought over the years, entertainment value. I just want to see the guy do it, and it inspires me, just the juice of watching that, So I think there's a lot to glean, be it if you're really looking to really learn, and there's stuff for all levels. Within each tune, I'm really getting down to the core basics of what makes me, right? And it's not the difficult stuff; it's the simple stuff. So you may not be able to play the more dexterous passages if you're not quite to that level yet, but you're going to get some basic stuff too about how that one note is sounding clean and clear and has dynamic to it. There's stuff for everybody there. You know, if you're intermediate to advanced, you'll get even more, right? Because hopefully you'll be able to take some of these things. But even if you're, you know, just getting started or just more on the beginner level, be inspired and get these little nuggets of information that are huge, you know, because it's really the basics of anything you do, be it sports or whatever. If you can master those really simple things, that's what defines the really great people, whether it be an artist or whatever. They've really got those things together that really helps them define their identity. And I think for speaking specifically for the guitar player, it's not all the fast stuff. It's when you finally land on that one note and like, is the vibrato nice? Does it draw your ear in? It's some of those basics that really add up to, you know, people wanting to listen to you more, I think.
Well, just the integrity that you have, that you know, the pride of ownership in it that you probably don't have in a lot of lessons and stuff like that, that you're going to get by participating in this. You know, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, you're not just teaching a lesson, you're putting your heart and soul in this thing. It's just you.
I'm like you said earlier, I don't have any problem laying everything out there. I'm going to tell you, you know, good, bad, the ugly. There's no reason for me to hide anything. There's no reason for me to. Somebody said that to me once years ago when at the advent of YouTube and all this, and they saw me demonstrating my gear. Says, "Why are you really giving away the keys to the kingdom there? Why do you do that? Like, why not? I mean, you know, I want to share whatever's helped me, you know, and I've gotten so much from so many other players. Maybe they haven't divulged it specifically to me, but I've learned it from them in one way or the other. But I have no problem in any of that. I want to share that, you know, because at the end of the day, people still have to do the work.
Yeah.
You know?
So it doesn't matter if you give away the keys to the kingdom.
Oh, here's the gear I'm using. That's going to get you closer. Here's how I did it. That's going to get you closer. But it doesn't get you there. You know, it's still up to everybody to do the work. You know, there really are no shortcuts when it gets down to it. It's time invested in whatever your goal is. You know, there's things that can help you, no doubt about it. There's the gear, and there's me showing you. But I can't put the time in for you. You know, you are going to have to, you know, you're going to have to do some work, right? But along the way, you know, if like you say, maybe 10%, the ones that do, it's there, man. And if the ones that don't, they're going to get a lot out of it too. I'm not saying, you know, don't do this unless you're ready to commit 1,000%, because some people just don't have that kind of time. They may be kind of caught up in life, and they haven't figured out how to make time for that yet. Maybe they will with the inspiration. I learned a lot about that through Tony Robbins. We talked about that. He was a great life coach for me when I subscribed to his personal power program. It changed my life because he really taught me.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Andy and Craig's personal power program.
Yes. Well, I find myself drawing the same things that I learned from Tony. It all works for everything. You know,
totally.
He put together things in such a really fun way. But he just cherry picked the best of, because he bought every self-help program ever made, from Zig Ziglar to what's the one from Carnegie?
Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
I think there's so much, and it's like me with music. I've done the same thing. I've taken from everything, and I'm putting it out there as me. That's what he did, and it may not all be original, but it's original in how it's being presented, and he presented it in a way that resonated with me, and obviously millions of others. I'm not unique in that way, and a lot of people benefited from it. It was big for me, so I think he taught me how to teach in some ways too, or at least I garnered some instructional ability from what I got from his program, and I listened to it multiple times. It wasn't just the one time. That's one of his analogies. You don't go to the gym once and go, okay, I'm in shape now. His other analogy about, he hired a piano tuner to come over to his house. He'd had this beautiful brand new piano or old piano or whatever. Piano tuner came over, tuned it up, says, okay, that's great. I'll see you next week. I said, well, why are you coming next week? Well, because it had been in this other state for so long, it's going to want to go back to that. So I have to come in a week, then I'll come in 2 weeks. And the analogy was great. You know, you can start practicing tomorrow and go, oh, this feels great, you know. But as time goes on, you might revert back to, oh, I'm lazy, I don't feel like doing it. But if you get back with a teacher, or you get back with a video or whatever it is on a regular basis, you know, you're gonna develop much more of a consistent habit. At least I needed that.
Oh,
I needed that from Tony. I needed that help because I wasn't doing it on my own. But it probably took me a lot to go realize I need help.
Oh, that's a whole nother topic.
I'm going to get right. There's our other show, right? Figuring shit out. But he was
figuring shit out with Craig and Andy.
His analogies were so great. The piano tuning thing worked for me, or going to the gym once. You need that constant. Of course, he's selling his services too, but it was right, and it really worked for me, my personality type, and where I was in my life. It couldn't have been better timing. So very thankful for that, and I see where I've gleaned teaching techniques and ways of communicating from him. Is very infectious. I tried to get my wife to do the series too, but she found him very obnoxious. Just the way he laughed.
Yeah, I could see women not really, to be honest with you.
So much. But Pamela Anderson did. She was part of the infomercial. Tony helped me get to where I am. How his ways of organizing and setting priorities and goal setting workshops or whatever. It worked for her. So just my wife didn't dig it. But she gets it from me, right? That's the great part about it is you can teach other people these same concepts and ideas, whatever you might want to pass on, or think somebody might be inspired by. So I think some of that, it's like hearing me talk about the influence it had on makes me want to listen to it again. It makes me want to go back and see what else because, as you can watch a movie or listen to a piece of music at one point in your life and it might mean something. You watch or listen to that same piece of music or movie 20 years later, you're going to go, oh, man, I didn't realize that level or that thing. Or because of your experience now, it means something completely different to you.
Yeah.
So for me now to go back to that would probably be a really good idea. Just because, it'll probably –
Well, you need to prep for the show. You need to prep for figuring shit out.
You need to prep for figuring out. Yeah, exactly.
You need some good lines, man.
Stories now. That was another. That is one of many analogies. He talked about this preacher somewhere at a church, and he gave the congregation witness he gave a certain sermon one Sunday. The next Sunday he gave the same sermon. The next Sunday he gave the same sermon. So finally, the fourth Sunday, some of the elders got together to address Father, you're given the same sermon every week. Well, until you guys start applying this,
that's what you get. Yeah.
The same sermon. That's pretty freaking cool. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I can give you this lesson, but you gotta start applying the stuff. That's everything with anything in life. You can get all this great information, but we got to apply it.
Totally, man.
I need to hear it again. Preach to me, man.
Listen, is it fair to say that when you come out your next record, you come on the show and talk about it?
Absolutely. You can't shut up, Al. And I'll promote all my stuff.
Yes, and we'll get to the 50 other questions we didn't get to.
We're gonna have the new Andy and Craig Figuring Shit Out DVD series.
That's right, man. And early listeners get it at a discount, so send in your cash. Hey,
we'll give you our half a century of experience. Well, full century together.
Full century, yeah. Sadly, a full century
of heartbreak and
108 years of getting ass kicked for 108 years. Hey, man, I'm really glad we get to connect. Honestly,
thanks,
you're such a cool guy.
Thanks, Mark Prentice, for the introduction, man.
That's right. Man, everybody check out Andy Timmons. If he doesn't need any introduction, just go listen to his shit, buy his stuff, check him out at guitarexperience.net, and check out his JHS pedal, his exotic pedals, the AT, and that's it. Any final words, man?
I love you guys, and Craig, it's been great to meet you, man. I think we'll be friends and we'll be in touch. And
absolutely.
Appreciate you very much, man.
All righty. Hang on. Don't go anywhere. Let me say goodbye to everybody. Hey, listen, thank you so much for listening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did, although I doubt it because I had a blast. Thanks again, Andy Timmons, for spending incredibly generous time with us. I really appreciate it. And then when his next album comes out, we'll definitely get him back on here and talk about it. And maybe if technology warrants it, I could figure out how to actually maybe play some music on this show. Go to Everyone Loves Guitar. I get asked that all the time. Like, no, I got to put wires. That's not my thing.
I bet you. learn how to do that.
Yeah.
I bet you.
Go to everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get notified of future episodes along with some cool stuff we got coming out. Be nice. Go play your guitar. And most important, have fun. Till next time, peace at the 10%.
Hey, that's a tag. I like that.
You like
Be
that?
nice.
Be nice. You know what? Like, you know, I thought of that. I was thinking.
It's not hard. It's not hard to be nice. It's not hard
it's
at all.
so important.
It is kind of. It's like the most important thing ever right now.
Like if I thought of that because
Be good to each other, man.
if my kids came to me and they said, Dad, what one lesson could you say? And I'd say, be nice, because it made my life so much easier when I started being nice. And it's just a good thing to do.
It's not that hard.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be. It is for some. But yes, I love your tagline. Keep going with that one.
Be nice, go play your guitar and have some fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. Thanks to Andy again. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.